West here, reporting from Houston, Texas for Climate Desk. Now, one of the biggest uncertainties in climate science right now is the role of clouds. What better way to work that part out than flying right through them? That's what NASA scientists aboard this airplane think. Welcome to NASA's biggest airborne laboratory. You're coming with us today on an 8-hour NASA flight mission.
When you read these big IPCC climate assessments, what's the biggest uncertainty? There's two, right? The role of aerosols and clouds. Clouds is probably bigger than aerosols.
That is a piece of a puzzle that right now we are missing.
You can't get the models right if you don't understand the chemistry and the process.
Now we're being told we've got to get on. The doors are about to shut, so let's go aboard. Every time you turn on the weather, every time you hear a climate change prediction, that information has to come from somewhere. And it starts by getting sucked out of the air from planes like this.
So this mission is to particularly try to understand the emissions from the surface, so mostly biogenic emissions, so from trees and other plants.
Right now we're flying to our very first part of this experiment on the DC-8. Over Arkansas, there's a particularly pungent bouquet of emissions that scientists are interested in measuring.
Well, these emissions lead to both aerosols and to molecules that both destroy and create ozone. So these are very important things to understand for climate.
How it will manifest itself, it will be in more accurate and more reliable predictions.
So what we're doing is taking a series of flyovers, each at a different level of the atmosphere, scooping up those emissions, testing them, and hopefully scientists are going to see exactly what's in this column of air all the way up.
The data that we collect in one flight can keep busy 60 scientists and students for 3 years, 4 years. We're still studying data from data collected 20 years ago.
In fact, this particular mission today is its most heavily equipped in its nearly 30 years of service. Each one of these consoles here is a specially equipped scientific instrument designed to collect all sorts of different data in real time.
And this instrument here tracks the sun.
We're looking at mist chambers. They're used to strip soluble gases.
This black line is the CO2. It's about 390 ppm right now.
We're putting these filters in the bags that we've got the aerosols that we trapped out of a certain amount of air. And so we're sampling up here about 150 liters a minute.
That ultimately flows back into the operational models. It flows back into what goes on TV every day.
Anyway, I got to get this sample going.
You do it. It's a busy man at work. We can't let him rest. Well, get this. We've just spent 2 hours crisscrossing this one cloud formation. In, back out again, back in again.
Then they grow, and we track them as long as we can, and then we let it go.
Even one cloud can hold a host of answers to the mysteries of climate change.
The patterns of, where the clouds are, what type of clouds we see, what kind of weather systems they're associated with it, that'll all be shifting in a shifting climate, in a world with climate change.
Then the big spark is this, is when we actually get the meat on the grill. And then it will be some time to process it.
What the frack?
What the frack?
What the frack?
What the frack?
President Obama, are you fracking kidding me?
Reopen the EPA studies. In Texas, Wyoming, and Pennsylvania.
Fracking pollutes our oceans.
Fracking poisons our water.
Fracking makes climate change worse.
Fracking relies on toxic chemicals that cause cancer.
Ban fracking now.
Ban fracking now.
Go on. Ban it.
Ban fracking now.
Please.
What do you say? Here we go on a Monday, July 20. Hello, hello, hello. Great to see you and welcome. Welcome to the Bill Press Show this Monday, coming to you live from Washington, D.C. Hope you all had a great weekend. President Obama sure did. He went up to New York Friday, spent the night, went out with his daughters, saw a Broadway play, Hamilton, went for a walk in Central Park, went out for lunch, went out for dinner, had a great time, came back to Washington, went out and played 18 holes of golf in the hottest day we've had so far this summer with 3 Democratic members of Congress. Good weekend for the president. Hope you had a good one, too. Bernie Sanders had a good weekend. He is still on fire, attracting the largest audience ever for him or any presidential campaign candidate this year. Not ever, but this year. 11,000 in Phoenix, Arizona, of all places. Hey, I thought that was a red state. Well, it is, but Bernie is appealing across the board to middle-class Americans who think our government is not fighting enough for them. Donald Trump had a good weekend, too. Well, a bad weekend, maybe, but good for him. He's getting a lot more media attention because he stirred things up by criticizing John McCain, saying John McCain is no war hero just because he was captured. His fellow candidates are just apoplectic. Of course, it was okay for him to attack Mexicans, but when he attacks a white man, then they want to throw him off the stage, out of the race, out of the Republican Party. Trump says he ain't apologizing. And the New York Times has a hold of a copy, and they've been reporting on the deposition Bill Cosby gave 10 years ago in a lawsuit in Philadelphia where he admits going out and getting drugs, admits giving them to young women so he could have sex with them. He is, as the president said, no doubt a rapist, and he admits it. So much to talk about. Give us a call at 866-55-PRESS, and thanks for being there with us this morning, Monday morning.
This is the Bill Press Show.
We came here to Foster City, where we're going to watch UC Berkeley, a University of California SWAT team, do a hostage rescue scenario.
All personnel will wear the proper protective equipment. This includes all personnel identified as staff, students, role players, VIPs, and support staff. Face, eyes, throat, and drawing protective is mandatory and should be worn at all times by personnel directly involved in or near the scenario. Always check your mask prior to use to ensure there are no cracks and the mask is in safe working condition.
Should I put the water in there now? Yeah, go ahead. This is like some kind of chemical agent? Yeah.
Copy, we're ready. I'm gonna get shot. I already know it, dude. Fiend's yelling at me.
Help me. Your hands. Help me. Your hands. Back away.
Gentlemen, we have a chemical. We need to pull our person out. Get these guys out of here. Pull them out. Put your hands on your face. Keep him covered.
Your head up. He's got a shotgun back there.
That's all right. Keep his hands up where we can.
Hands on your face.
Hands on your face. On your face.
Someone cover me. I got a holster up, bro.
Okay, pull him around the corner. Pick him up. Get him out of the building. Quickly. We've got this. Let's get that guy out of there. You, come towards us. Keep your hands on your face. Turn around. Face away from us. Back towards us. Quickly. Back up towards me. Quickly. Pull him out of the room.
We're exfilling, Billy?
Yes, we are exfilling.
It was actually around 92, 94, there was an attack on the chancellor at his residence, which is on campus. And we realized at the time that we didn't have any resources to deal with that kind of threat when it took place. So, and I think about 15 years before, they had some kind of semblance of a SWAT team. So they regenerated the idea of activating a SWAT team.
And then since then, you guys have kind of branched out to doing what kind of stuff?
Well, since then, we train for everything. We train for every eventuality, barricaded subjects, like I said, most of what we do is high-risk warrants.
Okay. And it's something like it could be like a mugging kind of thing, just like on the street.
Depends.
Or
I mean, a mugging, but if it's armed, particularly.
Right, an armed mugging.
Yeah. Right.
Okay.
Exactly.
Okay.
And then obviously we're looking for training for anything else.
Yeah.
That we might be faced with, and that's what's great about Urban Shield is we couldn't duplicate this on our own.
Broadcasting around the nation, on your radio, on your TV, and online. This is the Bill Press Show.
Bernie Sanders gets the biggest crowd so far. Gets bigger and bigger and bigger. 11,000 people in Phoenix. Phoenix, Arizona. Hello, everybody. Happy Monday, July 20. How about it? Great to see you. Good to be here. And glad that you are along for the ride this morning. Just starting out the Bill Press Show on this Monday. Coming to you live from Washington, D.C. That's where you'll find us, right here on Capitol Hill in the heart of the action. Ready to bring you up to date on all the news of the day, big news of the day, and we'll hopscotch around the globe. Start here in Washington, around the rest of the country, around the planet. Whatever's going on, we'll bring you up to date and give you a chance to talk about it. Of course, the Bill Press Show on your local progressive talk radio station nationwide. On those two great radio apps, iHeartRadio and TuneIn. They're both free. Download it. At least have one of them, if not both, on your phone, like I do. That way you can follow us anywhere you go in the country. You can follow us anywhere in the country, too, on television, Free Speech TV. You've got DirecTV or the Dish Network. And worldwide, any electronic device will pick us up on youtube.com/talker, TAWKR-TV. That's it, man. We are everywhere. And we're here with our team in the studio here, Peter Ogburn and Ellison Murphy. Hello, guys.
Monday.
Happy Monday.
Here we are. Happy Monday.
Everybody have a good weekend?
Yes, indeed.
Yeah, it was nice.
It is summer in Washington, D.C.
Yo.
Yes, indeed. Yesterday felt like 110. I don't know what it was, but it was close to 100 anyhow. Yeah.
It was bad.
It was bad. It was indeed. Jamie Benson's here to take your calls again at 866-55-PRESS. And, oh, my God, Cyprian is in Paris.
Yeah,
Can you believe it? For 2 weeks.
Right now.
Anything could happen.
Anything could happen.
With Cyprian in Paris, yeah.
Yeah.
Is the Eiffel Tower still standing?
I know we have a lot of viewers, listeners in Paris.
We hear often from people in Paris. Yeah,
you can watch us anywhere in the world. So if you're in Paris and you see Cyprian, you got to let us know.
That's right. Any Cyprian sightings in Paris.
You got to let us know.
Well, and Cyprian is watching right now, right? That's what he's doing there.
You know he is. You know he is.
No, he always does. Hey, Sip. How you doing?
Morning, Sip.
So Monty Chancellor is here. He is homebound.
Yeah, he is.
This for the next couple of weeks as our videographer, and we're glad to have him back. Yeah, I just got to tell you. So I talked to Mrs. Sanders, Jane Sanders, last week, because I was thinking about maybe going out to Phoenix with a good Senator Sanders, but couldn't make the trip. Had to finish a new book I'm working on. Pardon me. But she said, oh, gosh, we're going on to Phoenix after Cedar Rapids. Starting Cedar Rapids Friday night, Cedar Rapids, Iowa, big dinner where all 5 Democratic candidates spoke. And then there's Lincoln Chafee out there. There's Jim Webb out there. There's Martin O'Malley, right? So all 5 spoke, and Hillary and Bernie. And then Bernie went on to Phoenix. Anyhow, she was saying, well, we're going to Phoenix. And she says, oh, my, we got this big problem now. She said, we got a hall that seats 5,000 people. And more than 5,000 have already signed up.
Wow.
So she says, and this is what...
That's incredible.
Everywhere they go, they have this problem. But, because I'm on their mailing list, and it just says, Bernie's coming, and it's open to the public, and it's free, but we encourage you to sign up. So people signed, they had over 5. So they got the convention hall and ended up with 11,000. Yeah. Unbelievable.
Wow.
I mean, think how exciting it might have been just to be there.
Yeah.
Here it is. This is for Bernie Sanders, our Bernie.
Bernie.
Yeah. And on. And Bernie told him, he said, I was coming over here, flying over here. And everybody said, remember, Arizona's a conservative state. Arizona's a red state. So don't expect many people there.
That's pretty shocking for a red state.
Largest crowd for him and the largest crowd for any political candidate so far. Yeah. Hillary had a rally in Iowa, 500 people.
500?
Which normally is a good crowd.
That's not a bad crowd, but yeah.
All right. We have reporters coming in today from the Washington Post, from Politico, from The Hill, and a new fellow talk show host from WCPT out in Chicago coming up a little bit later. And Donald Trump in trouble again. But first...
This is the Full Court Press.
Just a couple of other stories making news. I got some good news, bad news for people in California. The good news is they are getting hammered with rain.
They had a thunderstorm like you wouldn't believe in Southern California.
It is raining so much in Southern California, which is very, very good news for their drought. However, it's bad news for their baseball teams because they actually had rain delays and rainouts yesterday. The San Diego Padres
were here.
Yeah, well, the San Diego Padres had to shut down their game at about 5:09 p.m. That's only the second time in the history of their ballpark that they've ever had to do it. But in Los Angeles, you're right, the Dodgers were here, but the Angels were playing the Red Sox in Los Angeles, and that game was postponed to today. That's the first time that the Angels have had to do that in 20 years.
Wow.
That's the first rain delay that they've seen in L.A. in 20 freaking years. They're going to make up the game today. A doubleheader begins at 5 o'clock today in Los Angeles for the Red Sox and the Angels.
But the weirdest thing here in Washington, the Nats had to delay a game.
Yeah.
They played half the game, and the lights went out. In the stadium.
Yeah, the lights went out.
They were blaming it on Taylor Swift's concert.
Yeah, that's what I heard. Isn't that crazy?
And so they had to finish that game the next day and then play another game.
Crazy, man.
Yeah.
It's crazy. The J-Bay Open is a huge surfing competition. It's held in South Africa. Mick Fanning is a very well-known Australian surfer. He's got 3 world titles under his belt.
That's before he met the shark.
But he met a shark. He met a shark. This was over the weekend. Again, it's at the J-Bay Open. Cameras are rolling. He's out in the water. He's on a surfboard. And he is attacked by a shark.
That video is
all
unbelievable.
Captured on video, which you can find on Twitter at BP Show. We're about to tweet out a link so you can see the video. He's on the surfboard. You see the shark. You see the fin. You see the commotion.
Now, if you haven't seen it, you got to watch this video.
It's unbelievable. It's unbelievable. He
and the competition. There were 2 guys left. So the other guy, they were competing for first. He swims over to try to rescue, help them.
I know, it's unbelievable.
And then these on jet skis.
Jet skis come out.
Lifeguards come out, two different jet skis, and pick up both surfers and get them out of there.
He wasn't
nobody
injured.
was injured.
Unscathed.
He says he punched the shark in the back when he realized what was going on.
So he got one in. That's good.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know how he surfs with giant balls like that. You punch a shark and don't get hurt? Okay, man. All right. And the weekend box office, take a quick look at the numbers. It was a big opening weekend for Marvel as Ant-Man is top of the box office heap. They were worried that Minions might stay on top because it's had so much success. But Ant-Man pulling in $58 million. Minions pulling in $50.2 million. So Ant-Man a big winner there. Number 3 was the big opening weekend for Amy Schumer and her movie Trainwreck. They pulled in $30 million.
Big weekend. Okay. Thank you, Peter. Yes, indeed. All right. Donald Trump in more hot water now because of some comments that he made about John McCain at an Iowa Family Leadership Summit over the weekend. He was asked about John McCain, whether he thinks John McCain is he agrees that, well, first of all, how it started, right? Before Bernie Sanders, Donald Trump had a huge crowd last week in Phoenix. He had several thousand people, too. I forget now how many. And John McCain said, well, this is John McCain's home state. He's a little embarrassed that so many people came out for Donald Trump. So McCain said Trump was able to bring out all the crazies. So Trump was asked about that at this Family Leadership Summit. Obviously, he's a little annoyed at McCain because McCain is calling his supporters crazies. So Trump, in his fashion, strikes back, saying McCain is no war hero.
He's a war hero because he was captured. I like people that weren't captured, okay? I hate to tell you. Do you agree with that? He's a war hero because he was captured, okay?
Ooh. And then he says, how about all those people who are real war heroes also who weren't captured?
People that fought hard and weren't captured and went through a lot, they get no credit. Nobody even talks about them. They're like forgotten, and I think that's a shame if you want to know the truth.
And then McCain reminds us, he said, who's McCain? He's a loser.
I supported him for president. I raised $1 million for him. It's a lot of money. I supported him. He lost. He let us down. But, he lost. So I never liked him as much after that because I don't like losers.
Oh, I don't like losers. Well, as you know, the stuff hit the fan. Oh, yeah. Immediately. All Republicans who have held back over the last month while he went crazy about immigrants, right? Now suddenly they're outraged. And now they're demanding that he get out of the race, that the party throw him out of the party, that they don't let him in the debates, that Trump has to apologize. I mean, they're all outdoing each other, trying now to attack Trump for his comments. Here's Scott Walker.
I've said I will not comment on other candidates and policy. The exception I made is when someone goes personal and attacks an American hero. You may agree or disagree with some of his politics, but John McCain is an American hero, and I will defend him and any other veteran who's been a prisoner of war.
And let's also hear from maybe Rick Perry when the first one's out, too.
Donald Trump owes every American veteran, and in particular John McCain, an apology.
All right. So you hear it. And they were all of them. Jeb Bush, Lindsey Graham, they all came out and attacked. And of course, so did Hillary Clinton, so did Jim Webb, so did Bernie Sanders, everybody.
It should be said that if these comments by Donald Trump surprise you, you haven't been paying attention for like the last 30 years.
Yeah.
This is what he does.
It's exactly who he is. Okay. But are you ready for this? You ready for this? I am here this morning to defend Donald Trump. I am here to defend. You heard me right. I am defending Donald Trump. Don't get me wrong. I disagree with what he said about John McCain. I like John McCain, even though I disagree with a lot of his politics. Personally, I like him. In 2000, I was a McCainiac, as they called us, like everybody else. I went up to New Hampshire. I rode the Straight Talk Express bus, and I've admired the fact that he is a maverick. He's just become an old crotchety fart now, maybe.
Yeah,
but still, I still admire John McCain. And I do consider him a war hero. I totally disagree with Trump. But let's face it, okay? Here's why I say I defend Donald Trump. For a couple of reasons. Number one, you notice about these hypocritical, the complaints from the Republicans about Donald Trump. They are contrived, they are phony, and they are hypocritical. What about all this time when he was attacking Mexicans and calling them rapists and criminals? Yep, they didn't care about that. They didn't utter a peep about that. It was okay as long as he was attacking Mexicans. What about when he was attacking Barack Obama and saying Obama was not a real American? He was born in Kenya. He didn't have his birth certificate. He's still calling Obama questioning his authenticity as an American and his American citizenship. They don't care about that. But once he attacks a white man, suddenly, oh no, you attack those Mexicans, right? Yeah, attack those African Americans, right? Don't attack a white man, right? Number one.
Pretty striking, right?
On. It really is
striking.
And then the other thing is, may I remind you who started this little nonsense about demeaning war heroes, about taking down war heroes? It wasn't Donald Trump. It was the Republican Party against John Kerry in 2004. The Swift boat. They love the Swift boat. They said, everything's fair. Everything's fair. Well, they were right. Everything is fair. So if it was we'll put it this way. I hate that kind of politics. Politics of personal destruction. But you know what? You got to be careful around it, because you play the politics of personal destruction, it'll come around and bite you in the ass. And it just did for the Republicans. Yeah. And they can't stand it. Right. It was okay for them to swift boat John Kerry. But when Donald Trump criticizes John McCain, oh, no. Oh, no. He's a war hero. You can't go there. BS, right? They're just getting a taste of their own medicine, which is why I say Donald Trump, absolutely. He's got the right. There's nobody sacred in politics. He's got the right to criticize anybody he wants, even John McCain.
St. John.
Right. Am I right? Am I wrong? Is he right? Is he wrong? 866-55-PRESS. Here we go. Donald Trump. Blast John McCain? Yeah, damn right. He's got a right to. Let's talk about it.
This is the Bill Press Show.
Silicon Valley's Santa Clara County is often portrayed as a role model for the rest of the country. The county has some of the highest salaries and most expensive real estate in America, thanks in large part to the phenomenal success of tech companies such as Google, Yahoo, Intel, Adobe, and of course Apple, the nation's wealthiest and most profitable company. But Santa Clara County also has a more unseemly distinction. I'm standing near downtown San Jose, inside what is by some accounts the largest homeless encampment in America. The Jungle, as it's known, occupies a 65-acre stretch of creek where about 300 people live in makeshift structures. It's less of a homeless encampment than a full-blown shantytown.
This being the largest homeless encampment in the United States, and us having Silicon Valley with Steve Jobs and all this cash, we're not supposed to have this kind of homeless problem. You know what I mean?
I done been shot with a pellet gun like 4 times, attacked with baseball bats, my house set on fire.
This is like hell on earth. I mean, this is like something you will not see, and you have to see to believe, actually. It's like fourth world conditions.
Hi, have you ever heard of a place called the Jungle? Sorry? A place called the Jungle, have you heard of it?
We're not making enough money really for conventional homes or housing, and we make too much money for subsidized homes. So we're kind of, floating between the oil and the water. We told the landlady here if it would be possible to continue staying here. She said, no, you got to go. I already rented it out. And we went and loaded things into a storage facility, and it's still there. And all the campgrounds and things that we saw were too far out of the city, like KOAs and that sort of thing. So what we decided to do was to move into the Jungle. So that's what we did.
A few days ago, a woman named Lydia Hernandez was robbed inside of her tent. When she refused to hand over the money, the robbers slit her throat. When she still fought back, they bashed her head with an axe. She died a few hours later. Residents say that the police never come into the Jungle, so they have to fend for themselves.
There's no law down there except our own, right? There's no law. So we could smoke dope all day in the open. The dope dealers ain't scared because they're secure.
We go to the Fairmont Hotel and have a brunch or do a philanthropy. That's not going to cut it. We need billions of dollars to go into the inner cities and go into the jungle. Silicon Valley, the Bay Area is known for its innovation, its progressive thinking. It's one of the most progressive pockets in the United States, if not the world, and certainly one of the wealthiest. If we can't do it here, it won't happen anywhere. It's got to happen here.
At Earth Justice, we defend the environment in the courtroom. Join our fight. When you take a seat, you take a stand. Earth Justice, because the Earth needs a good lawyer.
This is the Bill Press Show.
So what's going on here? I'm defending Donald Trump. I know, it may sound contradictory, but I mean, what the hell? Donald Trump going to attack Mexicans? Nobody says anything. He going to attack a black man, president of the United States? Nobody says anything. Whoa, but, oh, man. Question, John McCain, and suddenly, the whole world falls down on him, okay? Fair game. Even John McCain is fair game. 866-55-PRESS, even though I disagree with what he said about John McCain. Carol's out in Albuquerque, New Mexico. What do you say, Carol?
Well, I say that how come it's not fair game with the Republicans when they stood up at the convention when Kerry was running?
Yeah.
And they had a purple Band-Aid on their finger, taking and trying to dishonor a veteran who had a Purple Heart.
Totally. No, absolutely. No, you look what they said and what they did to John Kerry. It was disgusting. And John Kerry is a war hero, just like I would say John McCain is. But, it's like what goes around comes around, baby.
Yeah.
Yeah. You sow the wind, you reap the whirlwind. Ike. Ike. All right, now, Ike, Peter's out of bounds. You can't tell us those stories about what happened down there.
Yeah, come on, Ike.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm just getting over the hangover. No, you can thank me for taking it easy on the tab. But hey, let's not forget, when Bill Clinton was in office and he was attempting to do some things, they came out going, "Oh, it's Wag the dog," and as a matter of fact, they're most responsible for the idea that they tied Clinton's hands when he was in office. And I remember Trent Lott stepping outside the chamber and saying, "Hey, I may not support the president, but I support the troops." And that kind of ilk that went on with them.
Yeah.
And also, too, don't forget. You want to talk about supporting the veterans? Well, they're the ones that have got the chance to do it. And every time they've turned around, they tried to cut veterans' benefits. They've thrown them off of food stamps.
Got it. Yeah, absolutely. Sorry, Ike, for just right now. You are absolutely right. And Donald Trump made that point, too. What's
is
John
the
McCain
Bill
done
Press
with it?
Show.
Officer, were you the one who arrested me? Gonna shake my hand? So I got invited to host a vigil called Carry the Names. And that's what they were doing, carrying the names of the people who were victims of deadly police force. Michael Brown, Eric Garner, that guy Gurley. I got a motion from Dragonfly from Stop Shopping Choir, and I started preaching. I preached up a storm as best I could, but about a minute and a half into my sermon, the place was flooded with police, Homeland Security, National Guard, state troopers, and I was pushed over and handcuffed so fast, down in the jail, down in the basement. Before you know it, I was out the door, put in prison overnight. The next morning, I'm in court. The same thing happens. I'm just rushed out of there. Then our lawyer, Wiley Steckler, gives me this iPhone. And there, in black and white, in the Gothamist, a popular paper, is this charge by Adam Lisberg, the MTA law enforcement spokesperson for this grand place. His quote is that I, Reverend Billy, physically attacked a police officer.
unbelievable. The feeling of being robbed of my work and life and identity, just the fiction. I did not touch anybody. I did not look. I know how to do this. I'm trained in nonviolence. I did not do anything. It was right here. It was right here. It happened right here. I was simply arrested while I was speaking and taken away, and that's it. The cold feeling in my city, the city that I love, that city spokespersons whose salary I pay for with my taxes, that they would say this. I could just feel the rending apart of the community, that we are not that close. We're not. They are willing to say this, and they think that they can just say anything about anybody and get away with it. So we have something in the Church of Stop Shopping called radical forgiveness. Amen?
Cops and bankers love their children.
I forgive the police.
We gotta love them too. Cops and bankers love their mothers.
But I'll stay radical.
Mothers love their brothers. We gotta love them too.
But we'll wake up every morning forgiving each other, reaching out, touching, telling stories, having humor, being in a community together, sharing our children, sharing the streets, sharing the climate, being in the city together. But forgiving each other, being grateful to each other, helping each other out, living together, living together.
I got a daughter just turned 4. What do we do in the superstore? What do we do with the blood and the gore? The water's rising through our door. Love our children too. Love our children too.
Amen. Earth-alleluia.
The most valuable morning radio show, according to The Nation magazine. This is The Bill Press Show.
Lauren French from Politico joins us in the next segment. But right now, we're talking about Donald Trump. Nobody else will defend him, but Ted Cruz and I. God, can't believe it. Joining forces with Ted Cruz. He supports him for other reasons, of course. Because he thinks Donald Trump is right about the Mexicans and everything else. So Ted Cruz has been defending him. But I'm defending him this morning only because the Republicans who are attacking him are total hypocrites. Total hypocrites. They let him get away with calling Mexicans rapists and criminals and all of that. They let him get away with questioning President Obama's American citizenship, authenticity. They've done that for the last 7 years, right? But once he attacked a white man, once he went after one of their own, John McCain, after John McCain had attacked him, remember, first, calling all of his supporters crazies, now suddenly it's okay for Republicans to dump on Donald Trump, and they're trying to get him out of the party. No, it doesn't work that way. John McCain is fair game. 866-55-PRESS.
By the way,
Peter?
we're also on Twitter at
Yes.
BP Show, where Cordell says karma is a dish best served cold, as John McCain is discovering now. This is going to be a very good show. Also, Mama for Obama says not only John Kerry, but don't forget what the Republicans did to Max Cleland in Georgia.
Oh, thank you, Mama.
Yeah.
Yes,
Talk
thank
about
you.
a
But that was
disgraceful,
disgusting, totally disgusting. What they did to a guy who left 3 of his limbs on the battlefield, right? And they accused him of being in bed with
Osama bin Laden.
Yeah. At the time. Yeah, just disgusting.
By the way, I also got one other message during that last segment from Cyprian, who says, yes, guys, I am watching the show.
No way.
He is up and he is watching
in
Paris.
In Paris, yes.
That is shocking. I mean, come on, he's in Paris.
You can take a day off, Sip. It's all right, buddy.
Keto's probably, she's not watching, man.
No way.
Yeah, well, she's shopping, probably.
Yeah, right.
Cyprian, where's your credit card? All right.
Oh, man.
Anyhow, yes. So, Donald Trump, what do you think? Is he out of bounds? Micah is calling from Kansas City. Hello, Micah.
Hey, Bill, thanks for taking my call. I agree with you. Donald Trump is totally inbound. Where was the outrage? Like you guys said, he had disrespectful remarks about the Latino population.
Yeah.
Where was the outrage when they allowed the president to be told shut up in the session of Congress? Where was the outrage when they had? Where was the outrage when they had the Obama's daughters as well as Hillary Clinton and Bill Clinton's daughters was being disrespected and spoken negatively of and while they was in office. And I also like to say, Bill, if John McCain could survive 5 years as a POW, I'm sure he could withstand a few harsh words from one of his running mates.
Oh, man, yeah.
You're right, Mike. Excellent points all the way across the board. It is feigned outrage. That's what you're hearing from Scott Walker and Rick Perry. And it's, to me, it just sounds so phony. They're so over the top in their condemnation of Donald Trump. Yeah, where the hell have they been? In fact, you know, that's one of the points that Hillary Clinton made down in Arkansas on Saturday, where she said, well, it's nice to hear them speak up now, but, you know, where have they been? Where have they been where we're saying all these things about immigrants, right? Hillary Clinton.
There's nothing funny about the hate he is spewing at immigrants and their families, and now the insults he's directed at a genuine war hero, Senator John McCain.
So Hillary Clinton joining in there, too. But again, chastising the Republicans for waiting so long before. I got to tell you, man, that first debate is going to be worth the price of admission.
Oh, my God.
Oh, you know it.
Oh, my God.
You know it, because McCain doesn't care.
Trump will be on that stage.
I'm sorry, Trump doesn't care.
Trump will be on that
stage. He's on that stage, unless they totally change the rules. Out in Chicago, WCPT, it's Carl. Hello, Carl. What do you say?
In a primary debate, I vividly remember Bush saying that McCain broke under torture and talked. And McCain responded in a very low voice saying, that was a pretty bad thing to say, and it just shows that no blow is too low in politics, and they will actually eat their own.
You know what? I don't remember that, Carl, but I'm sure you're right. Because Bush would have.
I was stunned when I heard it.
Yeah, Bush would have done it.
Low key that McCain responded to it because he just kind of mumbled and said, "Oh, that's a pretty low thing to say."
Wow.
But then again, they also said about Kerry that he shot an enemy in the back while he was running away. So the enemy shoots at you, turns and runs away, and you're supposed to say, "Hey, turn around, mister. Face me. I'm not going to shoot you in the back, but turn around so I can shoot you."
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Right. No, I mean, the fact that they got away with that, too, it's still... And look, we talked about it so much at the time, and partly it was John Kerry's his campaigns not responding immediately and condemning them and telling the truth about what exactly happened. They thought at the time, remember the Kerry campaign thought that these attacks were so below the belt.
Yeah.
So unbelievable, so disgusting that nobody would believe them. But the Republicans, they kept pounding, they kept spending money. And it worked. But here again, the point is that it was totally okay for them to go after a genuine war hero who happened to be a Democrat. It's not okay for Donald Trump to go after a person I do believe is a genuine war hero just because he happens to be a Republican. And so now suddenly they discovered, this Trump is not good news for us.
This is the guy. This is the Trump.
Here's the other question. Love your comments on at 866-55-PRESS, which is, do you think this is going to be this is going to hurt Donald Trump in the polls. I don't. I don't. The people that Donald Trump is appealing to, look, they are the extreme right wing of the Republican Party, no doubt about it. And I think John McCain may be onto something. They are the crazies, but they love Donald Trump because he'll say anything.
Yeah. If you ask anybody who's a fan of Donald Trump, and you ask them, why do you like Donald Trump? 9 times out of 10, one of the first things they say is, well, I really like that he just speaks his mind and he doesn't worry about political correctness or political answers.
Right.
This is why they love him.
They like the fact that he's got all the money in the world, so he doesn't have to. He's not beholden to anybody, right? He's spending his own money. He'll say anything, and he takes on the establishment, and he takes on these establishment, the Republican officialdom, if you will, whom they all hate anyhow because they still feel
right.
And he won't back down. Right. That's what they like. So this is not going to hurt. I believe this will not hurt him among his supporters. Right. The other thing is, and Trump is not backing down. Peter, we might put this up, a link on our website. In fact, Donald Trump this morning has an op-ed in USA Today. Now he's out there with an op-ed where he says, I don't need to be lectured. And the other point he makes, which is one that I think was Carl or Micah made earlier, one of our callers, is that he, just before the half hour, made the point that Trump is making the point that McCain hasn't done that much for veterans anyhow, as a veteran himself. So he's got this. His headline in the op-ed is, McCain has abandoned our veterans. I will fight for them. During my entire business career, he says, I have always made supporting veterans a top priority. But, he says, veterans are being let down today. Our Department of Veterans Affairs hospitals are outdated dumps. I will build the finest and most modern veterans hospitals in the world.
This is a master class of how to run your political message. Say something crazy, don't apologize for it, and then double down.
He ends by saying, I will continue to fight to secure our border and take care of our veterans because these steps are vital to making America great again. So, Ellison, one final call here from Robert down in Lawrence, South Carolina. Robert, what do you say?
Well, not so long ago, I made a comment online about I thought conservatives would prefer a dishonest Republican over an honest Democrat. And some fellow wrote back that anything that they had to offer was anything that was better than anything we had to offer. I thought he was being facetious, but now I'm beginning to think he was serious.
I think that's about. I think that comment that you received is about as intelligent a comment as you'll hear from a Republican these days. Yeah. All right. Anyhow, you watch. This is just the beginning of what we're going to be hearing from Donald Trump. If they think they're going to chase him out of the race, I think they are dead wrong. Yes, I never thought I'd see the day in my lifetime when I agreed and defended, not only agreed with, but defended Donald Trump. But the day has arrived. Lauren French standing by from Politico. We'll check in with her next.
This is the Bill Press Show.
When I started learning about nutrition, about which, by the way, much less is known than you might think, I learned that what mattered most about one's health was not necessarily the nutrients, good or bad, that you were consuming or staying away from, or even the calorie counts. But what predicted a healthy diet more than anything else is the fact that it was being cooked by a human being and not a corporation. Corporations cook very differently than people do. They use vast amounts of salt, fat, and sugar, much more than you would ever use in your own cooking. And the reason they do that is those are three incredibly attractive and incredibly cheap ingredients. And when they're layered properly, as in a chip or pastries and forms of junk food, they're incredibly addictive. They really press our buttons. They activate our dopamine network, our cravings. And in fact, people in the industry, they don't talk about addiction in the food industry, even though they traffic in addiction. They talk about craveability. It's the same thing. And snackability is another term they use. It's a lovely word. And then the last thing that's important to understand is they cook different stuff than you do at home. What they're good at, in general, they don't cook that well, but things like chips, they cook incredibly well. And here's a classic food that if you make it yourself, if you've ever made French fries, you have to wash the potatoes, you have to peel the potatoes, you have to slice the potatoes, you have to fry them in a lot of oil, you have to spatter your entire stovetop, you have to clean up, and then you have this pot of oil you have to get rid of. I mean, it's really difficult, and it's a pain. They're wonderful, but it's a pain. And if you make them yourself, you'll only eat them every 6 weeks, 2 months, because it's too much work. But when you let corporations cook for you, it's so simple and so inexpensive, and they're really good, that you will have them twice a day, as many people in America do. So you see the kinds of foods you end up with are these labor-intensive foods and desserts. These special occasion foods become everyday foods when we let industry cook for us. Eat anything you want, just cook it yourself.
So, I'm kind of new here, but I've noticed a trend. My human does this funny thing where she goes around and gets all my toys, and then she hides them in that basket by the door. But it's always the same basket, and it's always in the same place. And then she acts so surprised when I find them, but, she's putting them in the same basket. Again. It's like, hello? That's where you put it last time. You were the worst at hide and go seek.
Hey, Bill, it's Congressman John Yarmuth from the 3rd District of Kentucky. Congratulations on 10 years of being America's premier liberal voice. You give us unbelievable insight, and we certainly appreciate all your efforts. Once again, congratulations on 10 great years.
Well, thank you, Congressman Yarmuth, and congratulations to you for playing golf with President Obama.
Yeah, right.
Yesterday, out at Andrews Air Force Base, I heard that John Yarmuth beat the crap out of Barack Obama. I'm not sure now, but that's just a rumor. But
what's the rule, Bill? The president
always wins.
Always wins.
We will find out next time we talk to John Yarmuth how he did with his little golf outing yesterday. The president, very unusual, playing golf with anybody from Congress, and he played golf with 3 Democratic members yesterday, the 2 of whom are in the studio as much as you are.
Frequent
Peter,
guests on the show, yeah.
John Yarmuth and Joe Courtney from Connecticut, John Yarmuth from Kentucky, and Earl Perlmutter too. Mm-hmm. Also, is he New York? I forget now. Where's Perlmutter's from? Anyhow, he's also a good friend of the show. So the 3 of them were out there with the president yesterday playing golf. One footnote on Donald Trump before we move on here, and that is there are those who also are criticizing Donald Trump because he's attacking John McCain, calling him not a war hero, when in fact Donald Trump never served in the military and got several deferments because of bone spurs, allegedly, during the Vietnam War in one of his in one foot, but he couldn't remember which foot.
Yeah, and one of his hind legs.
Right. Yeah. At any rate, and so people are pointing out that he was able to kind of escape service, and so therefore does not qualify for the White House. I would just point out Dick Cheney had 5 deferments. Okay, we've already had the big cheater in the White House with Dick Cheney. So don't tell me Republicans are not going to look the other way when somebody went out of their way to get out of the dress.
As Mickey on Twitter pointed out, Donald Trump has done more for veterans than any other candidate. In fact, he served as Grand Marshal of the 1995 Nation's Day Parade. There's your hero.
Meanwhile, what's going on in Congress here? Lauren French, that's her beat, covering Congress for Politico, and joins us on our news line this morning. Hey, Lauren, how are you?
Good morning. How are you?
I'm doing great. So I guess Iran is the big focus now, right, on the Hill?
It is, and I would not be a good beat reporter. Earl Perlmutter, Colorado.
Yeah,
Thank you. Colorado.
Thank you.
All right, good.
Let's say.
Yeah.
But that's more important things. It is very focused on Iran on the Hill right now. Obviously, this nuclear deal was unveiled, and you have Democrats and Republicans aggressively studying it once it is delivered to Congress. And there's a lot of skeptics on the Hill. Congressional Republicans are really ready to dismiss it offhand. They say that the United States gave really too much away in trying to ink a deal with Tehran. You have some Democrats who are a little bit more ready to accept a deal. You were talking to members last week who are more pro-deal, who said that we have not the deal that lived in your fantasies, that we can only do so much when it's other world leaders. This is not just a deal within the United States. So there's going to be a lot of lobbying, and you saw that with the Obama golf trip. You were right. This is an incredibly rare gesture from the president to bring 3 members of Congress out golfing. These will be 3 House Democrats, of course, who will be pivotal to the Iran deal. John Yarmuth, they're all, more in the, they will be lobbied aggressively. You're going to see that him bring in Jewish members of Congress to lobby aggressively because, of course, House Democrats in general are very pro-Israel, but Jewish members of Congress will be much more skeptical of this deal because of their strong ties to Israel. And you already saw these members come in and get a private briefing from Ben Rhodes last week. So there's going to be so much outreach for the 60-day review period as members decide whether or not this is something they can support.
Now, what can a Congress? Well, first of all, they'll be holding some hearings, I would gather, right? Have they been scheduled yet in the House or the Senate?
Yeah, so the Senate's going to hear from John Kerry this week. John Kerry will absolutely appear probably multiple times, both in the House and in the Senate. You're going to have the Secretary of Energy come in. I would imagine you're going to have senior Obama officials come in. There will be a ton of background briefings, so not just private hearings. We'll get into the more confidential details during background briefings for lawmakers, which are private, with probably the negotiating team, senior Obama officials, and then, of course, you'll have the public hearings.
Now, do they have the power to deny this deal? I mean, to undo the deal, to cancel the deal, basically?
So right now, what they could do is after the 60 days, they'll put a vote of disapproval up. And that passes, which it is likely to pass, that legislation would head to Obama's desk. That's going to stop the deal from going forward. Obama has pledged to veto that legislation already out of hand. So what we're really looking at, it's not the disapproval legislation, it's whether or not Democrats can sustain a veto. So in the Senate, he needs about 12 Democrats to stay within their ranks to be able to sustain that veto. In the House, the numbers are a little bit more in flux. But if Democrats can sustain that veto, then he is fine, the deal goes forward. So this is one of those interesting situations where the disapproval resolution, just because of Republicans' strong numbers in both the House and the Senate, it will pass, and it'll be up to Democrats to sustain a veto.
Right, so make sure that they can't override the veto. So it sounds like there's going to be a lot more golf in the next few weeks, and a lot more members playing golf, indeed. Hey, Lauren, thanks so much for being with us. Always enjoy talking to you and having you in the studio, and we'll catch up with you again. Lauren French covers the Congress for Politico, Politico.com.
This is the Bill Press Show.
What gets you into college? Good SAT scores? High GPA? Lots of extracurriculars?
Sure, but what you really need is money.
If you don't have the cash, you'll need a loan.
And we mean huge student loans because the cost of college has risen 1,000% in the last 30 years.
This means big money for the banks that collect fees and interest.
Now, millions of young people are starting their adult lives with an average of $29,000 of loans on their backs.
Altogether, we're talking $1.2 trillion in student debt.
And more people are finding it impossible to pay them back. Welcome to the student debt crisis.
The increasing demand for higher education and cuts to state funding gave colleges a huge incentive to keep inflating prices.
I graduated about a year ago, currently in $35,000 of debt.
I am in debt about like $25,000.
I owe $23,000.
I owe over $50,000 in student loans.
38.8 million Americans owe money on a student loan. And the biggest names in banking are making huge profits off the booming student loan industry. Sallie Mae, the largest provider of private student loans, made $949 million last year.
They only give you about 6 months to look for a job. You have to start paying back the loan. It's very pressuring, especially nowadays. It's very hard to find a job.
Over half of the students graduating in 2012 could not find a decent paying job.
They either had low-wage jobs or unpaid internships or were unemployed altogether.
So you can't make the payments. You start incurring late fees, which makes the loan even harder to pay off.
And it stays with you for years, even decades.
Right now, a third of the people who started repaying their loans are delinquent or in default.
That's 13.7 million people, more than the populations of Chicago, New York, and San Francisco combined.
Worse, it's not just the borrowers who are in trouble. Many loans require co-signers.
So if the student is unable to pay, that co-signer, a father, a mother, or a grandparent, is now on the hook.
Even a grandparent's Social Security benefits can be garnished to pay the loan.
We should have an answer to this. If you get really behind in your car payment or your credit cards, you can file for bankruptcy.
But Congress has made it nearly impossible to discharge student loans through bankruptcy.
Big institutions make big profits while students try to make ends meet under crushing debt.
But I'm discouraged. One can afford to get a job to pay off your.
We need higher education, not higher debt.
Sign up to end the student debt crisis at higherednotdebt.org.
This is the Bill Press Show.
Charles Ellison from the Philadelphia Tribune joins us as a friend of Bill in the next hour.
You know, Bill, it was a good weekend to go to New York City this weekend. That is what President Barack Obama
did.
He
Yeah,
he went up to New York. Yeah. He hung out a little bit in Greenwich Village and in Gramercy Park. Went and saw the Broadway show Hamilton on Saturday night. He hooked up
afternoon.
Saturday afternoon. Hung out with his daughter Malia and Sasha and his sister and her husband there. So lots of stuff he fit in there in New York this weekend. He's going back tomorrow.
Went for a walk in Central Park. So were you hanging out with Obama in New York?
No, we run in different circles.
Oh, is that right?
This is the Bill Press Show.
I'm a Piston fan. Their slogan was, "We come to work." That's what Detroit about. That's why they used it. It's a team thing. They won 2 championships, a team. There was no star. No mayor can come in here and be a star. It's a team thing. No governors can come in here and think you can do it by yourself. It's a team thing. You got communities. They got ideas too. The only thing wrong with Detroit, people have lost hope here. Residents, city workers, so much corruption. They lose hope. But I grew up here. I love this city. I think it can come back. I've been working for the city 24 and a half years. Within the last 10 years, we've took 4 pay cuts and then an additional 10% wage cut. I've lost a home.
When you take all of the decisions out of the city of Detroit, all of us, then what do you have? Exactly what we got. A lot of problems. Every time the city seems to fall into a problem, it's always on the backs of us workers.
You wake up out of a dead sleep and you jump behind the wheel and take off driving and try to get everybody there safe, not knowing really what you're pulling up to. I'm not eligible for Social Security, so the pension is my sole salary at this point.
We've been in business here 39 years. We've seen a lot of changes in Detroit. The area was a lot of industry, a lot of city workers. It's getting very tough for the city workers. It's getting tough for us as a business people.
Response times are increasing because of the closing of companies, which takes your insurance rate through the roof. So all the things that affect us affect the citizens.
I worked for the city in different capacities for 29 years. I feel like an old jacket. They use me up and they throw me away. In my condition, nobody's gonna hire me. I'm 68 years old. Half the times, I can't get my blood pressure medicine. It's either feeding myself, blood pressure, or paying bills.
$754. By the time they take all the deductions for I have my car insurance, my house insurance, and my health insurance taken out. So the time they take all that, I'll get about $300 after they take all that out. I don't understand it. I can't see how the governor is allowing this to happen and what they're doing and they want to blame it all on the seniors. Not only the seniors, but the city workers. And we worked hard. I know I worked hard.
I've been in Detroit since 1946. I was 14 years old when I came in. I don't live large at all. I wish I could. I don't know when the last time I've been shopping. I only get $1,100, and I'm 81 years old, and I need every penny that I can get and that I do get. And I'm very, very upset about the idea of them taking away my pensions that I worked 30 years for.
I think it's terrible that they talk about Detroit like they do, because Detroit has been very good to me.
I have a lot of city workers coming in with their uniforms on, Detroit Water Department, Police Department, Fire Department. I get a lot of people, the Border Patrol come in. So if I lose that customer base, I'm going to be in a position where I might have to close down. If they take away their pensions, if they start cutting jobs, it's going to cut into a large percentage of not only our business, but other businesses that are in the city of Detroit. We're here. We've been here for 26 years. We're still trying to do business in the city.
Detroiters are survivors. They tough. They adapt. But only can do so much when your politicians are ahead of you and we're not on the same team. We're not going to let Detroit be erased, bulldozed, or whatever. We're going to fight to the bitter end. Detroit going to survive.
Just this month, my bill was like $138.
Even at one phone call a week cost me $40 to $50 every month.
I am living on a fixed income of SSI, so this is really a great hardship. Families are being punished when they incarcerate their children, they incarcerate the whole family.
In 2011, the Media Action Grassroots Network, Working Narratives, and Prison Legal News founded the Campaign for Prison Phone Justice, an effort to call on the FCC to address the cost of interstate phone calls. The campaign mobilized prisoners to send hundreds of letters. Advocates and families filled out postcards, met with elected officials, and signed petitions. Partnerships were formed across the political spectrum and with groups in the criminal justice, civil rights, and public interest community. The film distribution company Participant Media and director Ava DuVernay joined the fight through a social action campaign tied to the release of the feature film Middle of Nowhere. In an effort to push the FCC to act, the campaign hosted a historic rally outside of the Federal Communications Commission where for the first time, families of prisoners, elected officials, civil rights and faith leaders came together to call for an end to predatory phone rates.
We're all held captive when predatory phone companies gouge our families.
My son has been incarcerated now for over 10 years, and my husband estimates that in the time we spent over $25,000 on prison phone calls.
My hero's not yours, you probably arrested them. Your schools probably neglected them. They spawn thoughts, you probably infected them. Feed us what you feed us, you can lay us next to them. FBI call it major crimes. Babies making babies cry.
Broadcasting around the nation, on your radio, on your TV, and online. This is the Bill Press Show.
Today's the day, the official day when we normalize relations with Cuba, between Cuba and the United States. A long time in coming. What do you say? Hello, everybody. It's Monday, July 20. Great to see you today. I hope you enjoyed a big weekend and a relaxing weekend. God knows President Obama did, man. He was all over the place having all kinds of fun this weekend. Whatever your weekend was, welcome back to the real world, such as it is. on this Monday, July 20th. It's a crazy day. We'll make the most of it and tell you what's going on from our studio here on Capitol Hill in Washington, D.C., taking a look at news here in Washington, around the country, and around the globe. And, of course, we want to hear from you, whether you're listening on your local progressive talk radio station, coast to coast, or watching us on Free Speech TV. Give us a call at 866-55-PRESS. Send us your comments on Twitter at BP Show and on Facebook at facebook.com/Bill Press Show. Good job by Ian. Igor. What is
There he is, yeah.
God, Igor Volsky. On a Friday, as a friend of Bill, and another friend of Bill in studio with us this hour, Charles Ellison, who's a Washington correspondent for the Philadelphia Tribune, contributor to The Root. Hello, Charles. Welcome back.
Bill, it's good to be here.
All right.
It's always good to be a friend of Bill, man. I love that. I love that.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, and we love having you in as a guest host here,
Thank
too,
you.
every
Thank
once
you.
in a while.
It's a
So
pleasure.
you know the team, Peter Ogburn and Lisa Murphy.
Definitely know Peter. Yeah,
Here we are.
Yeah.
Hey, good morning.
Hardworking team. Good morning.
Yes,
Yeah,
indeed.
with
Monday.
Jamie Benson there, standing by to take your calls at 866-55-PRESS, and Monty Kanzler here as our videographer today, because glory be to God, Cyprian Bolding is in Paris.
Wow.
Oh, Charles, you know.
Oh, yeah. I want to.
We
want to go where he is. He didn't tell us about it. He didn't tell, he didn't tell me about
We
it.
have put out the request to people watching, on the video
Right.
stream, Talker
Right.
TV, any Cyprian sightings in Paris. We want.
Right.
I want to know. I want to know.
The Cyprian's Instagram
we-
page, right?
but we-
Yeah, right.
You know.
But we have heard from him this morning. He
Okay.
was up and watching
Yeah.
on
Wow.
Talker TV.
He texted,
That's what's up.
He
Yeah.
texted and made sure we got on the air, made sure we were on.
That's commitment.
Yeah, yeah.
That's commitment.
Yeah.
Right. All
Have you
right.
Sip, I know you're watching, buddy. You can take the day off. All right, you're in Paris. Take a day off on us,
take the
okay?
day off. Yeah. Please.
He's sitting at a little sidewalk cafe, on the left
I mean, if he
bank.
really wants to be here, we can switch up.
Yeah.
Take the flight out
Yeah,
there.
right.
We can switch.
Just
calm.
Hey, Elisa, we that little cruise over the weekend where his promise. They had this big freedom forum out in Iowa. I just was struck by the fact that the thing I love about this gang of Republicans is they're new people with new ideas that we've never heard Republicans talk about before. Like, here is what Ted Cruz promised over the weekend.
2016 is going to be a referendum on repealing Obamacare. And if I am elected president in 2017, a Republican president is going to sign legislation repealing every word of that failed law.
Can you believe that's he's still out there with that tired
pushing that.
old promise?
Yeah.
I mean, come on.
Yeah. Still pimping it.
Yeah.
Yeah. And that's not just him, quite a few other
Yeah.
Republicans in that really clownish pack that's been emerging over the past couple of months.
Yeah.
And they really feel like Obamacare is going to, we don't know if it's going to really be the issue of the general election. It could be a great issue for them in the primary.
I think they'll make it one in the general, whoever it is.
Yeah, whoever, they're really going to, and when you look at the polling, you still see it, particularly Republican and conservative voters. I mean, this thing about repealing Obamacare, and there's this sort of detachment between how the sentiments you see in the polls and the reality of the Affordable Care Act working.
Right.
It works for them. So but you see this
and it works
huge
for people in red
disparity
states
there.
as well as blue states. No, it's
Exactly.
It's crazy. And so, despite 55 votes to try to repeal it, right, didn't go anywhere.
Right.
Despite how many years now, 6 years or whatever, that has been there and is working, and all these 8.5 million people have signed up, plus you got another like 8 million on Medicaid. I mean, it's 60 million people never had health care before, health insurance before. They've got it. Despite 2 Supreme Court decisions upholding it, he can still use that. I just wonder who are the suckers that believe it. You know what I mean?
Still pushing it, and it's the red states and it's those blocks of voters that are most politically opposed to it.
Yeah.
Who actually benefit from it.
I can't believe it's a winning issue for them
so,
anymore. I just think they ought to drop it, but who cares?
I don't know.
But, it's not going anywhere. Charles Ellison here with us the entire hour as a friend of Bill. We'll be joined by reporters a little bit later from the Hill and the Washington Post, and lots going on. But first,
this is the Full Court Press.
Just a couple of other stories making news. This is a very interesting new report. It comes from researchers in Tel Aviv University. They found out that to help heal broken bones, one thing that really, really helps...
Wine.
Well, weed.
Oh,
marijuana helps
the other
bones
W
heal faster. The thing is, the cannabinoids inside of marijuana. This is the non-psychotic marijuana component. So it's not like you want to heal a bone, you smoke a joint. It's not how it works. But they apply these directly to bones and find out that they not only heal faster, but they are stronger and more resilient against repeated fractures. And they're less likely to break again. So there you go. What can't we do?
Wow.
Well, the point of the story here is don't wait until you break a bone to start smoking. Use that as a prophylactic.
Right. It works. Right.
All right. So we have Apple Pay, right? You give Apple your credit card information. You can use it. You can scan it. You do whatever you want to do, right? Well, Apple has filed a new patent to create an e-commerce system based on giving you ads on what you can afford. In other words, it will look at the kind of money you have in your account and then market products to you based on what you can afford. It'll look at your spending habits, looks at what you spend on goods and services and what categories you spend your money in, and will give you ads based on those things.
Welcome to the invasive world of the Internet of Things, right?
Dude, I don't know how I feel about that.
Yeah, I don't either.
No, I'll tell you. But it already. You go to Amazon and it says, "Oh, based on the books that you bought, here are the new books that you'll have." I mean, it's already out there.
It's out there.
I don't so much mind that.
This is a
going directly
step.
into my account.
But this is just taking it one more step.
Right.
Yeah. And we go to Henrico, Virginia, just outside of Richmond, where a man by the name of James Minor drove through Bojangles. I want to go get some fried chicken, so he drove through a Bojangles. Been there many times myself. Well, it turns out they accidentally put about $4,500 in cash and deposit slips inside of his box of chicken. They needed to make a bank run, and they put their money and their deposit slips inside of a Bojangles box to take it to the bank. And instead of giving the man his box of chicken, they gave him the box of money. He said he did the right thing. He turned around. He gave them money and deposit slips back.
Wow.
And they were very happy. In fact, they gave him a free meal to eat at Bojangles later on.
Bank of Bojangles.
The Bank of Bojangles.
That's funny.
A free meal for give him more than that.
Yeah, right.
They should have given him meals for life.
Right,
seriously.
Bank of Bojangles meals for
$4,500 they almost gave this guy.
Wow.
You buy a lot of fried chicken with that.
Yeah, you
could. Yeah.
All right. Yes, indeed. It's an incentive to go through the drive-through. You just hope that they're going to.
I got to go back to Bojangles.
Yeah, right.
I've been there in a while.
I'm going
It's
to
been a while.
I'm going to make a mistake. Try them all. Yeah. So, man, Charles, where do we start? I want to start. I was at President Obama's news conference last week at the White House, and he talked a lot about Iran, but he also talked about something he had talked about at the NAACP earlier in the week: criminal justice reform.
Right.
This is a problem a real problem facing this country that not a lot of people talk about, right? But the inequity in sentencing, particularly because of the maximum mandatory minimum laws, which particularly affects young people of color.
It does. And that's been ongoing for not a number of years, I mean, really a number of generations, particularly when you look at the number of young men of color that are still in jail with these very long, outrageous sentences for just like the smallest crimes, the smallest nonviolent crimes. And so the president, he's recognized this. He's recognized this for some time, particularly as someone, with the sort of background that he has, being involved in community activism from the South Side of Chicago. He saw, and obviously, he's starting to see that there's a lot of discussion, a lot of bipartisan consensus surrounding criminal justice reform. So you have a lot of Republicans, conservatives, particularly libertarians now seem to be on board with criminal justice reform. The president politically trying to defy basically defy the whole notion of being a lame duck and saying, hey, I can get something done. Maybe comprehensive criminal justice reform, and we can stop being the most, having the largest prison population in the world. And so you notice that
in prison than China.
Right. We do.
Russia. I mean, it's unbelievable.
And I notice how he's dropping those points, those talking points. Particularly he's kind of sending a signal to a lot of Republicans and conservatives here who are saying, you guys are always talking about Russia and China, how they're our geopolitical competitors, and look at us, we've got more people in prison than they do. Yet we're always quick to point them out as sort of these tyrannical, despotic regimes, and look at how we're looking. So he's definitely, there seems to be some hope here, at least based on kind of the political mojo that he's been exhibiting over the past couple of weeks regarding the issue.
It's funny that you mentioned that, because I sort of had that same reaction when I saw how sort of invigorated he was when he started getting into this issue, and the idea of a lame duck.
Yeah,
he ain't buying it. Clearly,
no, he's not.
Clearly, and this is a big issue. Like if he gets this done, that's a big deal.
So the disparity between crack cocaine and powder cocaine, and that's what's resulted in a lot of these sentences.
Right.
So you got people in there for their first offense for 20 years.
Right.
And to underscore this point, the president became the first president ever to visit a federal prison, right?
That's right.
And he came out and said, "There, but for the grace of God, go I."
Right.
Because we know that the Chum gang and all of that, he experimented a little bit himself, right?
Exactly. He's been very forthcoming about his own sort of personal history, and he's made this it's also it's a haves and have-nots issue.
Yes.
Which is it's a real big class issue as well. It's a class issue with respect to those types of drugs, whether it's crack or whether it's powder cocaine, and even on some burgeoning discussion now regarding marijuana. Now we're legalizing marijuana, but for years you had poor, low-income people of color, who were sort of on the front lines of the drug war, jailed in prison for low-level marijuana offenses. Now we're legalizing it, and now you've got this nuke over that. And the president, he's recognizing all that, and he's trying to see what he can do.
If you have at least the comment that the president made to reporters when he came out there in Oklahoma.
These are young people who made mistakes that aren't that different than the mistakes made that a lot of you guys made. The difference is they did not have the kinds of support structures, the second chances, the resources that would allow them to survive those mistakes.
That's underscoring the point you just made. Yeah,
right.
These kids didn't have families to support them, lawyers, right?
Exactly, and that's once that's it is a race issue. There's some sort of systemic racial issues that are the root cause of all that, and then there's those class issues as well. Folks not having access to those types of resources. So it's much easier for you to navigate the criminal justice system if you have the resources to do. Yeah. I mean, look at the disparity between Dylan Roof and Khalif Browder in New York. So Dylan Roof, and I wrote about this recently in The Root, where Dylan Roof, he was out on $5,000 bond, for at that time a nonviolent drug offense, and also for trespassing. He got out on $5,000 bond. He's roaming around visiting different Confederate battle sites, by some shady New York police officers, and then he spends 3 years in Rikers Island because his family $10,000. But Dylan Roof, the white guy who ends up being the terrorist, he has access to those resources as opposed to Khalif Browder. So even there, you see what I'm saying? I mean, that systemic racism and that systemic prison pipeline that's been set up that sets up those disparities. Even there, it's like when we don't keep those in check, look what happens. 9 people lost their lives. So, the president recognizing this, but the real big question here, Bill and Peter, is. Well, like he commuted the sentences of those 46 individuals last week.
It's a total of 86 for him now.
Right. That's a commutation. That's not a pardon.
Exactly.
So, what happens afterwards? Because you have that big issue of folks come out of prison, but they have a lot of trouble getting, reintegrating into society, finding those opportunities, getting that access, and being able to find a job. Also we have the issue of felons not being able to vote. There is a very high likelihood that many of those people commuted are going to end up back in prison.
He is way, way, way behind on pardons.
Right. Very much. Yeah.
It's interesting, on commutations with 86, that is more, because I just wrote about this, that's more than President Reagan, George H.W. Bush, Bill Clinton, and George W. Bush combined.
Right.
And that's 86, but that's only 86. There are, under the new guidelines, 25,000 people in federal prisoners have applied for commutations.
Wow.
25,000.
25.
And he's done 86, and that's more than all those other presidents.
Right.
So these things are really out of
and I get the feeling he's, I definitely feel like he's coming from the right place on this issue, but at the same time, I guess he's worried about what sort of legacy that leaves. I don't want to give too many commutations and pardons because of how it might look.
He's also pushing for the legislation, I think. And
right.
To see what
exactly.
If Congress doesn't act, I'll bet you he'll do thousands more. That's my guess. We're here with Charles Ellison, and lots more to talk about. And Julian Hattem from The Hill will join us at the half hour. We'll be right back with your calls at 866-55-PRESS.
This is the Bill Press Show.
I have run these canyons for 6 million years. I have traveled from the Rocky Mountains to the deserts, through scorching heat and freezing cold, from the land of the dinosaurs to fields of food.
I lend my hand to 7 states, 2 countries, 9 national parks,
and 36 million people across an arid West.
I am not the strongest or the largest, but I am the hardest working.
People love me.
my playfulness,
my beauty,
my power.
my life. But I don't think I can offer any more.
I am tired.
I am tired,
tapped,
and tied. Of the hundreds of major rivers in the world, I am one of the few who no longer kisses the sea.
Battles to harness my soul have been won and lost. Use me wisely, and I will sustain you.
Use me like you have, and I will break. My name
is
Red. The Grand River Red. The American Nile.
The Canyon Maker. I am the Colorado River.
And I am the most endangered river in America.
So, I'm kind of new here, but I've noticed a trend. My human does this funny thing where she goes around and gets all my toys, and then she hides them in that basket by the door. You know, but it's always the same basket, and it's always in the same place. And then she acts so surprised when I find them, but, you know, she's putting them in the same basket. Again. It's like, hello? That's where you put it last time. You were the worst at hide and go seek.
This is the Bill Press Show.
Here we go at 27 minutes after the hour with Charles Ellison here. Julian Hattem from The Hill joins us at the half. You know, Charles, this is a little less than a minute, but normalizing relations with
Yeah. That's
day,
exciting.
huh?
That's a really big day. It's very exciting. That's something that's just been a long time coming. I wish several years ago my mother had passed, and that was one of her big dreams to go to Cuba, and she was waiting on that. She was waiting on that. So now, hopefully we'll get that chance to go there to do that. Yeah. So a really, really exciting day to head. For now, people have that those two countries opening up, and we need to have, the U.S. has to have that relationship with its neighbors, and with islands in the Caribbean. I'm saying as the husband of someone from the Caribbean, that's a real big thing down there in the islands right now.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, people are very excited in Cuba and here. By the way, the American flag will not go up on the embassy in Havana until John Kerry goes down later in the summer.
Wow,
and he's the one who gets to raise it.
Presidential visit, maybe. I don't know. I don't know. Maybe it's coming. Yeah,
we'll be right back.
This is the Bill Press Show.
The average text takes your eyes off the road for nearly that's enough time to travel the length of a football field. Stop the texts, stop the wrecks.
Before now, it's been difficult for criminals like us to know which states have loose gun laws. How would a criminal like me know which states permit me to carry loaded guns in their amusement parks, golf courses, or beaches?
I have some violent friends. We all wear leather jackets and scream at women. And we want to find out which states we can buy and sell guns easily.
CrimAdvisor.com. That's the site to find out where it's easiest for felons and fugitives to buy, carry, and even traffic guns.
That's why I love Arizona, where I can go see the beautiful Grand Canyon and carry a loaded gun without even having to get a background check.
You would fail that background check.
I'm sure of it. Now, what about a road trip? What states can I go to fill my trunk with guns and take it back home for my even more dangerous friends?
CrimAdvisor has a list for that.
That's so unreasonable.
Our traffickers' top 10.
Nevada. What happens in Vegas may have to stay in Vegas, but your guns don't. Bring them over to California and sell them.
The market up there is hungry for guns.
I understand that crimadvisor.com will tell me which states really cater to us criminals and creeps, but what about the states where we're not so welcome? The ones that don't get us?
I don't even like saying the name of these states, but California, Connecticut, Maryland, and New York all have laws to keep guns out of the hands of people like us.
I want to shoot California so bad.
Boo, California.
Boo, go home. Wow, crimadvisor.com has all this information?
Sure does.
crimadvisor.com. Plan your perfect getaway. Oh, like TripAdvisor.
Oh.
So, same time next week?
Well, of course. Put away a few bucks, feel like $1 million. For free tips to help you save, go to Feed the Pig.
What the frack?
What the frack?
What the frack?
What the frack?
President Obama, are you fracking kidding me?
Reopen the EPA studies. In Texas, Wyoming, and Pennsylvania. Fracking pollutes our oceans.
Fracking poisons our water. Fracking makes climate change worse.
Fracking relies on toxic chemicals that cause cancer.
Ban fracking now.
Ban fracking now.
Go on. Ban it.
Ban fracking now. Please.
Connect with The Bill Press Show on Twitter. Follow us at BP Show and tweet using the hashtag WatchingBP. This is The Bill Press Show.
Hey, here we go on a Monday, July 20, 33 minutes after the hour. Lots going on here today, and we need a lot of help to get through it. And we've got it today. Charles Ellison here. He wears so many hats, it's hard to keep track of him. But he's a Washington correspondent for the Philadelphia Tribune, contributor to The Root, and also, I learned today, now a contributor to The Hill. Charles, great to see you.
Just good to be here, Bill.
And this is like The Hill moment, right? Because you contribute to The Hill. I write a column for The Hill on Tuesday. Right. And Julia Hattem is one of their
Hill alums.
Staff writers for The Hill. Used to be their tech guy, and now he's just all around, covers everything that they need. You're the utility infielder, is that it?
Utility infielder and outfielder, any position you want.
All right.
I got it.
Julian, good to see you.
Happy Monday. Thanks for having me. Great to be here.
Check out thehill.com with all this talent.
Yeah, we should take over the show, you know.
That's right.
We should take over The Hill.
Take over The Hill,
right? We just talked about Cuba. I went to Cuba. Carol and I went to Cuba in May.
Wow.
And I was given orders before I went to Cuba by none other than Bob Cusack, who's the managing. No, he's not.
The editor-in-chief.
Editor-in-chief of The Hill.
Right.
That I had one job, which was to bring back cigar for him, which I did.
That was your mission, right?
You did well.
We went to the tobacco farm, and I bought a tobacco. I watched the guy roll the cigar that I bought for Bob Cusack and brought it back.
That's what's
That's
up.
beautiful.
And I heard later from him that he enjoyed it.
It was good. That's good.
Yeah,
That's
indeed.
great.
All right, lots going on. You've done this. It seems like every time we turn around, right, there's some mass murder. Of course, we never talk about guns in this country anymore, but the latest is in Chattanooga, these two military facilities down there. Julian, you've been covering that. What's the latest?
Sure. Well, there was this news over the weekend. A fifth victim passed away, a sailor who had been injured during the shooting on Thursday and then passed away over the weekend, I think Saturday. And so that brings the total up to 5. It's 4 Marines and the sailor. But there's still no real motive. We're not entirely clear why this guy, this 24-year-old Kuwaiti-born naturalized citizen, did what he did. He seemed to be just kind of a regular guy. He had a blog post. He was Muslim. He wrote a couple of things about his religion, but nothing crazy, right? And I guess now the FBI has said there's no direct links to ISIS or any kind of terrorism act. There's no huge manifesto like we saw with the Dylan Roof guy down in South Carolina. So we still don't know really for sure why he did this. What he's doing.
But he had spent some time in Jordan recently.
That's kind of the investigation right now. He went to Jordan and Kuwait for a couple months last year, and so I think there's a lot of investigation both in the U.S. and Jordanian officials kind of questioning people back there to see what was happening, what were you meeting with.
Did he go to any training camps, do we know?
I think so far we don't know that. I mean, at least according to his friends, when he got back, I mean, he seemed normal. No one said that, after he got back, he was totally converted and kept talking about whatever. But I mean, it's really it's still kind of a blank slate. They've also, the FBI's taken his phone and his computer and, has kind of started to analyze that at Quantico to see what's in there.
Contacts might have been.
Yeah, if there's some documents in there. And one of the problems, at least this is one of the things the FBI always says, is that because so many communications are moving onto encrypted forms of communication, so that it's kind of protected from everything, and so it's harder to crack in, that it's easier for people like this potentially to communicate with someone in Jordan or Kuwait or Iraq or wherever without kind of being able to avoid the eyes of the government.
So the feds have a better chance of cracking after something happens than they do
before,
during the communication, the line of communication. And is there any sort of evidence that maybe agencies like the FBI, CIA, NSA, had they been tracking him when he went over to Kuwait? And
it seems to be no. I mean, so far he was not on any watch list or anything like that. I mean, everyone is saying he's caught a lot of people by surprise. Depending on who you ask, there's already been a lot of knee-jerk criticism or knee-jerk kind of allegations that he's, this is jihad, this is like some ISIS guy. Ted Cruz had a thing saying that, this is war, and it remains to be seen whether or not there's anything to substantiate that. But he seems to fit the model, at least, of, some kind of lone wolf actor, right, which is something that everyone's very concerned about. Some guy who may or may not have kind of direct direction from on high, and kind of just gets it into his head somewhere to carry out these heinous acts. And then,
but this may be the greatest threat of all.
Sure,
right, is the lone wolf, Charles. I mean, because without being part of without having ties or without being part of a gang, there's less communication. It's just somebody who, for whatever reason, decides they're going to pull off one of these mass murders.
I mean,
it's able to easily get their hands on the guns.
Right. It's 2 levels of risk there too. I mean, one is it's harder to identify those types of players, those lone wolf jihadis, because they slip through the cracks so easily. The other risk is then you have officials on a state, federal, local level start creating profiles of, like even with this particular gunman. There's a profile of, he was in the MMA. He was, he definitely was going over to Jordan and Kuwait. So all sorts of assumptions are being made. So then, now because they slip through the cracks so easily, you have officials starting to build these profiles. And so, but there's a risk with that, because then you start creating all of these assumptions regarding specific people in the community based on their name, based on the way they look, their religion, their color, etc. So there's that sort of sociological risk that's associated with that kind of national security threat as well.
Whatever Muhammad is his first name, right?
Muhammad Yusuf Abdulaziz, I think.
Okay. Right.
But that's his born name, right?
Yeah.
This is not the. I was confused a little bit at first, because we're so used to these Americans who grow up as Johnny Black or something, and then they become Muslims, and then they change their name, and then they become, some of them, radicalized. But this is a kid who was
that was his name. I mean, and he went
through high school and everything with that name in the community, right?
Yeah. I mean, this is kind of tragically ironic in retrospect, but there was a picture from his a yearbook quote from his senior year of high school that, in retrospect, is kind of sad and awful. But it said, my name causes national security alerts. What does your do? Which is. I don't know what to say about that, but that's something, But I mean, this is kind of this lone wolf, this needle in a haystack, literally, and who is impossible to detect. And because of the rise of the internet, if one guy follows some Twitter account of something crazy or YouTube videos of something crazy, and surely mentally disturbed, right? Then kind of goes off. It's almost
you
impossible
mentioned
to find
Dylan
that.
Roof earlier. I mean, now he did have, as you point out, the manifesto, but still, he's another lone wolf.
Right. And folks are very worried about that. They're worried about that, whether they're folks who are affiliated with or sympathize with ISIL, or whether they sympathize with white supremacist or domestic terrorist groups, and just really trying to figure out how do you catch these guys, because you're not going to see them coming. And so, but, and then there's of folks who are mentally ill or mentally imbalanced, then, do you start just sort of creating these blanket assumptions regarding the mentally ill? Are they all violent? There's that issue as well. So it really is a really kind of, interesting kind of dynamic there that's playing out as we're trying to respond to a national security threat. So,
and you can see the tragedy and the suffering in the community of Chattanooga, very tight-knit community, just like there was in Charleston.
Yeah. Right. I mean, it feels, especially when it's these main cultural institutions like a church in Charleston or, a military facility, which is, you think of as being
recruiting stations.
A recruiting station, like a Navy Marine station. These are kind of very important communities, important centers to the community, and kind of hubs that really have brought everything together, and it's kind of ripped that out.
I'm real curious, Julian. I mean, have they done anything as far as his profile, his personal profile? What about his sort of socioeconomic status? I mean, did he have a job? Was he living with his parents? Was there something? Was he frustrated about sort of his current financial situation that may have sparked that?
I mean, he had a job. He was a college graduate. He went to the University of Tennessee, Chattanooga. He was an engineer. Yeah, I mean, he was working for a power utility or something. So he had some stuff. He was Muslim but not very devout. He smoked some weed. He was caught for DUI back in April or something. And so people said they had seen him around the local mosque, the local Islamic community center, a little bit, but not too much. I mean, this is one of those things where in retrospect, everyone was just the nice neighbor next door, but he seemed to be just the nice neighbor next door. He wasn't a very quiet kid. He wasn't, at least from all intents and purposes and from reports now, he seems not to have been a super big loner. It's just kind of, so far it seems to have taken a lot of people by surprise. Even, 24 hours before, he was texting with his friends about what do you want to do tomorrow. And, there's always this tragic thing about someone hears something, they text him, oh man, have you heard about this? Let's have a beer tonight and talk about it. And then it was him who was the guy who carried out this tragedy.
But I have to point out again, the one common denominator in all of these things is the easy access to guns.
Right.
Nobody wants to touch it. After Charleston, the flag, and that was important to talk about the flag, right?
Right.
But I wrote a column at the time about this, saying he wasn't killed with those nine. The beautiful nine were not killed with the flag.
Right. A lot of critics have been saying that the flag debate. Okay, while on some levels it's necessary, it was a welcome distraction for the lobbying interests like the National Rifle Association.
Absolutely.
Hey, keep talking about the flag, guys, as long as you're not talking about gun laws. And there were actually a couple of very fervent pro-gun laws that were one that was passed earlier in February and one that was almost passed in terms of permitless carry in South Carolina. So, they've already had a lot of controversy surrounding gun laws in South Carolina, but we didn't have that discussion while we had this big emotional debate over the Confederate battle flag.
Right. And on the news of the day, I'll take a quick break here. Julian Hattem here from The Hill, staff writer for The Hill, and Charles Ellison, contributor for The Hill, along with all the rest of his other jobs, and me, columnist for The Hill. So there you go. I'll be right back. You don't work for The Hill? Oh, we're still at 866-55 Press.
This is the Bill Press Show.
This is why you took a second job. While you taught yourself how to fix the plumbing. While you'll do whatever it takes to keep your home. And that is why we want to help. We are making home affordable, a free government resource that can make paying the mortgage easier. Call 888-995-HOPE today.
So, same time next week?
Well, of course. Put away a few bucks, feel like $1 million. For free tips to help you save, go to Feed the Pig.
Bill Press, happy 10 years of great shows. I must say, I enjoy coming on the show. I enjoy listening to you. But most of all, I love your hair.
All right, Congresswoman Jackie Spear. You know, Donald Trump and I, that's all people, they just talk about our hair. That's all they ever talk about. Yeah. Thank you, Congresswoman, for your congratulations here. Wow. In studio with us, Charles Ellison and Julian Hattem. Hey, guys, I want to ask you about something that maybe you don't see coming, but maybe you do. But anyhow, the New York Times this weekend, two in-depth stories about Bill Cosby. They got a hold of the deposition from 10 years ago in Philadelphia.
Right.
And they report on it and basically lay it out there. Charles, I mean, Bill Cosby, I mean, he admits that he went out and bought these drugs purely for the purpose of giving them to young women so he could have sex with them. And he gave them the drugs and he had sex with them. You know.
Yeah.
What President Obama said last week is kind of right on, isn't it?
Right. I mean, you're mixing drugs with sex, and Bill is kind of rape. You know, so, and that's basically what the president said. That's what a lot of folks are saying. Bill Cosby himself, not really, even in that deposition, you see, he doesn't make that connection.
Right.
You know, he's basically saying, well, no, the drugs, buying the drugs and the sex somehow kind of separate. This is what, and implying that, well, this is what the women wanted. This is what they expected. But it's just at the end of the day, and this is what the president was saying, that's just not first of all, it's not a very gentlemanly thing to do, which Bill Cosby, and during that deposition, is trying to sort of paint himself as a sort of, gentlemanly type guy who's very chivalrous. No, it's not, Bill. That's what the president's saying. And two, you do, basically, that's not, once you give someone a substance like that where you can influence them to do whatever, that's rape. So, and that's really why folks are saying the deposition, really, they're clear evidence that Bill Cosby engaged in some really salacious and potentially illegal activity.
Yeah. So is he off the hook, Julian?
I don't think he's that. I think this is only going to keep building, right? I mean, I think there's been this momentum for months, if not years now at this point.
Years.
Yeah.
This was 10 years ago, the deposition.
Yeah.
10 years ago.
I feel like it's kind of been emerging back in the public consciousness more and more lately. And, the president was asked about it, right? Like, it doesn't really get to a higher level than if the president's asked about it in a news conference. And so, I don't know what's going to happen to him. I guess there's some speculation that maybe this case should be reopened or there should be kind of more judicial action right here. But, certainly in the court of public opinion, I think a lot of people have made up their mind that, if you, the euphemism I guess he used is aggressively pursue, quote unquote, women while drugging them and then having sex with them. I think most people have decided that that's rape, and whatever is going to happen to Bill Cosby legally, I think in terms of people's buying habits, in terms of people's behavior, I think, at least when I think of Bill Cosby again, I don't think of, the guy in the sweater necessarily anymore. I think of the guy who drugged women.
Here's what I don't understand. Let's face it, like a lot of rock stars, when this was happening, he was one of the most revered, beloved people in America. He could have had all the sex he wanted, anytime he wanted it, with almost anybody he wanted. Why? Why the drugs?
And a lot of folks.
Why did he feel he had to do that?
Right.
It wasn't like, again, some ugly old guy nobody wanted to have sex with.
Yeah, Bill Cosby's always been kind of a wild guy. Speaking as someone who grew up in his hometown, he grew up in North Philadelphia. He came from a really rough background, growing up there, and some really rough neighborhoods in North Philadelphia. So, and there's some speculation there, and a lot of folks back home will talk about this. Well, that's the Bill that some of us knew, and it's not such a surprise. So. But and his attitude about this, the way he's responding to it or not responding, suggests that, I've accumulated enough money over the years that I really don't have to respond to anything. So that's the other thing. It's like, it's hit his image, but Bill's got so much money. I remember seeing there was an estimate as far as like the accumulate value of his brands, like $900 million. It was something obscene. So, he's got loads of money, and I don't even know. He may have shifted a lot of his finances over to his wife, Camille. So maybe that's why Camille's standing by him. And so, really a lot of folks can't touch his money as they think they can, or as he thinks they can. So, there's a lot of questions there. Really the decent thing to do would be for Bill Cosby himself to come out, make a statement or some kind of apology, or say, hey, I now realize this was unacceptable behavior, but he's not going to do that.
No. The first time when I forget the comic's name that raised this issue, the most
Hannibal Buress.
Yeah. And then there was a lot of denial then, a lot of attacking the women and everything. But since the deposition, that is Bill Cosby speaking. This is nobody else. There's been silence on the part of the Cosby camp. It's really sad. Years and years ago, Carol and I were on our way to the Grand Canyon with our kids. 2 boys. We stopped in Vegas so we could see a Bill Cosby show. And his family, and it was great.
He was an icon for a long time.
Really, and then to think, he's fallen. But we haven't solved all the world's problems, but but a couple of them we did. Yeah. So thank you, Julian, for coming in. And Charles, always good to have you here, man.
Great being here, Bill. Thanks.
Congratulations on the new assignment with The Hill.
Thank you.
And we'll be right back and tell you what's on the president's schedule today. Yeah, he's back in town. No golf today. No Broadway theater today. He's got a work schedule today.
This is the Bill Press Show.
Okay, here we go. Ready almost just for hour number 3. Just want to remind you that you'll wait until 5 p.m. Eastern to watch us on Free Speech TV, but you can jump over right away to watch hour number 3 in real time at our website, our video stream, Talker TV, youtube.com/Talker TV. Rebecca Sinderbrand will be here from the Washington Post, and then we'll talk to a brand new radio talk show host now, starting with his own show every day during the week out at WCPT, Wayne Besen. Very excited about hour number 3. Stay with us on Free Speech and on Talker TV.
A few years ago, plastic bag waste in our city came to a tipping point. It was clear we had a bag problem. My department was tasked to reduce plastic bag consumption. We needed to come up with ways to change human behavior. So we asked ourselves,
would you like a bag?
What do people really hate?
Yep.
Getting punched in the stomach. Preliminary studies showed that the consequences weren't severe enough to warrant behavioral change.
Actually, can I get that double bagged?
So we thought, what do people hate more than getting punched in the stomach? Kissing Helga.
Hey, big boy.
People didn't find her so offensive after all, so we had to get creative.
How many bags? Okay, now, pour this ice water down your pants.
We tried everything.
Eat this rat.
Defuse this bomb. Even fighting your clone. After blowing through millions of dollars of government funds on research, I came up with a brilliant idea.
Why don't we just charge 5 cents per bag?
That's a stupid idea.
Would you like a bag?
Yes.
5 cents a bag.
5 cents? 5 cents? Do I still have the option of getting punched?
Honestly, I don't know how everyone else missed it.
Why don't you just get a reusable bag?
This is the Bill Press Show.
Okay, a big third hour coming up here with Rebecca Sinderbrand, starting off with Rebecca Sinderbrand from the Washington Post, their political news editor, and then Wayne Besen, who is a new talk show host on WCPT out in Chicago, will be joining us as well, plus the rest of the news of the day. President Obama starts out with a daily briefing this morning, and then he and the vice president will be meeting with the president of Nigeria at the White House at 11 o'clock this morning. This afternoon, late this afternoon, the president delivering remarks at a reception to mark the 25th anniversary of the Americans with Disabilities Act. Very, very major piece of legislation. It's done great things for disabled Americans in this country. We have our press briefing today with Josh Earnest at 12:30. We'll talk politics with Rebecca Sinderbrand.
This
coming up
is the Bill Press Show.
The hardest moments for me is when I'm laying awake in the middle of the night and I'm thinking about all the times I made a pitcher of Kool-Aid with the water, or I boiled a pot of corn or potatoes with the water. Those thoughts just stick with me in the middle of the night, and I feel horrible as a mom that I didn't know that something was wrong, but how could I have known? there's no way I would have known.
The spill at Dan River happened when a drainage pipe that ran underneath an ash basin and dam collapsed, sucking out 6 decades of waste and spewing gunk directly into the river.
My husband and I just kind of looked at each other like, should we be concerned? We live right next to an ash pond, and this was coal ash spilling into the Dan River, and we learned at that point all of the toxins that were included in coal ash.
A situation like Dan River, where there was a catastrophic disaster, gets people's attention, but the fact is that these coal ash pits have been leaking and poisoning people's groundwater and the state's surface waters for decades. Coal ash is the residue left behind after coal is burned in a coal-fired power plant. A large coal-fired power plant can burn 10 million tons of coal a year. When the organic matter in the coal is burned away, what's left behind are these trace minerals, things like arsenic, lead, mercury, selenium, and chromium. And these are highly concentrated. The coal ash can have concentrations of these contaminants that are 10 to 100 times greater than the level in the coals themselves.
Coal ash pond number 1 is right behind my house, literally pretty much in my backyard. We were approached by a neighbor who was wanting to have their well tested, and we decided that maybe we should have ours tested as well. They found hexavalent chromium at 4.5 parts per billion.
So in talking to the residents, we have discovered anecdotal evidence of an extraordinary number of cancers for this fairly small community.
Some of us in the community got together. We started kind of talking about all the cancer that we've seen in some of our family friends in this community. I think we had somewhere in the neighborhood of around 70 names. So we had some help from our river keepers putting a map together, and it was a little shocking to see it. You know, I still have a hard time looking at it.
Technically, EPA has not regulated coal ash as a hazardous waste, but it is undeniable that coal ash contains many, many hazardous substances that are hazardous, in fact, to people and the environment. And the only reason they have not been regulated as such is because of intense lobbying efforts by the coal industry and its allies.
A lot of these chemicals are simple elements, but when you find them at the levels that they exist in around coal ash ponds, then you're starting to talk about cancer, brain tumors, you're talking about birth defects, developmental problems, neurotoxicity.
We began to look at legal options, cases that we could bring in court to protect communities and their citizens from these toxic leaking time bombs. In 2002, North Carolina enacted a public financing mechanism for judicial elections. This kept private money out of judicial elections.
The repeal of the public financing program in judicial elections in North Carolina creates a dangerous precedent for all, and it gives corporate polluters and other special interests the opportunity to elect the judges that they want. And this is important for us all. Everyone should care about this, because when you think about the fact that the state and the federal government have basically abdicated their responsibility to regulate these issues, the state courts are the last stopgap.
I think this is no longer a problem that's going to go under the radar. It has been exposed, and I am confident that we will ultimately with the facts, win out and ensure that we have protected waterways.
And so this is something that we all should care about. If we're worried about the water we drink and the air we breathe, we have to be concerned about money and judicial elections.
At Earth Justice, we defend the environment in the courtroom. Join our fight. When you take a seat, you take a stand. Earth Justice, because the Earth needs a good lawyer.
The average text takes your eyes off the road for nearly 5 seconds. At highway speeds, that's enough time to travel the length of a football field. Stop the texts, stop the wrecks.
Broadcasting around the nation, on your radio, on your TV, and online. This is The Bill Press Show.
The crowds keep getting bigger and bigger for Bernie. 11,000 Saturday night in Phoenix. Right? Phoenix, Arizona. I thought that was a red state. Bernie's packing them in wherever he goes. Hello, everybody. What do you say? Monday, July 20. Good to see you today. I hope you had a great weekend and are ready to dive into the news of the week. We'll help you out telling you what's going on here in Washington, D.C., around the country, around the globe. Thank you for joining us on this Monday, July 20. And, we really would love to hear from you and your comments and what all the news means to you. You can do so by giving us a call at 866-55-PRESS or send us your comments on Twitter at BP Show or on Facebook at facebook.com/Bill Press Show to help us out through the politics. It's a big weekend. All the 5 Democratic candidates were in Iowa Friday night, and I think 10 out of the 15 so far Republicans were in Iowa on Saturday. So there's a lot of political news over the weekend. Rebecca Sinderbrand is political news editor for the Great Washington Post with us here for this first half hour. Hello, Rebecca. Good to see you.
Good to see you.
Yeah, this is getting more and more exciting every day, huh?
Interestinger and interestinger.
Peter Ogburn and Elisa Murphy leading our team here.
Happy Monday, Bill.
Hey, good morning.
Rebecca.
Good morning.
Is that a word? Interestinger.
That's how language evolves.
I think you just made up a new word.
That's right. That's right.
Now it is.
That's right.
Jamie Benson here, ready for your calls at 8655-PRESS. You tell us whether interestinger is a word or not. And
if you're going to call, the interestinger, the better.
That's right.
We're looking for in phone calls. That's right.
Our videographer today, Monty Kinsler, because Cypri Bolding is in Paris. He's lording it over us. He's already texted us from Paris that he was up and watching Paris. There are better things to do in Paris.
Look, if you're in Paris and you're watching the show, thank you very much. We're very flattered.
Now go out.
Now go do something else really cool and wonderful.
now go out and have a croque monsieur.
Yeah, please. Please.
Lots going on today, and there was some good news over the weekend. Former President George H.W. Bush released from the hospital back home to Kenny Bunkport. Son Jeb Bush giving kudos to his dad.
He's just the greatest man I know, and he's still hanging in there.
Indeed he is, and he says you can tell when he's getting better.
My dad, he gets in the hospital kind of pretty regularly at 91. He's a little frail. But when he starts telling semi-dirty jokes to the nurses, we know that he's on the rebound.
Oh, no.
That's why they released him. That's it. That's why they said, get him out of here.
I'd like to hear one or two of those jokes.
I was going to say.
I want to know what joke H.W. Bush is telling that's a dirty joke.
Okay, now...
I'll put my money on limericks.
Yeah. Rebecca here, and then Wayne Besen from WCPT, new talk show host starting today out there. Well, he's been on the air, but we're going to have a daily show from now on. He'll join us and tell us all about it at the half hour. But first, Peter.
This is the Full Court Press.
Just a couple of other stories making news. Bet you didn't know this, Bill. Last week was the International Mathematical Olympiad. It takes place in Thailand, and the smartest kids in the world fight for their countries and go and solve math equations. It's the Olympics of math is basically what it is.
I'll tell you one thing. I know no American won it.
Well, here's the thing. For the first time in 2 decades, the American team won.
No
We're
way.
number one. But how about that, baby?
That's right.
They say that the entry level into something like this, if you can solve even one of the questions that they throw at you, you're basically a genius. It is the hardest of the hard math problems in the world. And we won.
Surprises me. Yeah, I think we're good in that.
I'm glad they're out there fighting and not me.
I wasn't
Math
on the team.
ain't my thing. The Loch Ness Monster, Bill. We may have solved what the problem is, what it is with the Loch Ness Monster, what's actually happening in Loch Ness. Steve Feltman is a man who sold everything to hunt the Loch Ness Monster. He spent 25 years trying to figure out what is going on with the Loch Ness Monster. Is it real? What's going on? His wife left him. He quit his job. He sold his house. He has invested all of his time and effort into the Loch Ness Monster. He's all in. And he said over the weekend, I just don't think that Nessie is a prehistoric monster. What a lot of people have reported saying would fit in with the description of a catfish. He thinks the Loch Ness Monster is a catfish. Now, he said centuries ago, they threw catfish into this lake, and catfish can grow to be really big, like giant catfish. And so he says he thinks that's what's going on.
Not as big as sturgeon.
Yeah.
Well, so are they still seeing the Loch Ness Monster?
People still report seeing little things. The sightings have gone down more and more in the age of sort of digital phones and things like that, right? It's a lot harder to BS somebody into thinking you saw something. Yeah. But it's still a thing. And
catfish, right?
Yeah. It might be a catfish. And this is scary. If you had signed up onto a website called Ashley Madison, it's a website where you can sign up to have an affair. The idea here is everybody on there is married. You search around, and it's a dating site for married people to have an affair. Well, Krebs on Security is a blog that it's first reported that they have had a security breach. A hacker has hacked into the website, says that they have obtained all the member information and that they will release it unless their demands are met from Ashley Madison. So we will see if they meet the demands or if they actually have that information. For their part, Ashley Madison says that they were made aware of an attempt by an unauthorized party to gain access, but they have not confirmed that they were actually hacked.
The Chinese, they got it.
There you go.
Yeah, it's revenge for the math competition. Right?
Maybe that's it, right. All right, Peter, thank you. Well, Rebecca, we have to start with Donald Trump. All right.
That's the way he likes it.
I mean, we looked up this morning several times, every one of the cable channels, Donald Trump, Donald Trump, Donald Trump, right? And the latest, of course, is because, as we heard, Ellison here out in Iowa at this Family Leadership Summit, he was asked about the fact that he had this big crowd in Phoenix, and John McCain said, he just got all the crazies out. Donald Trump lashes back.
He's a war hero because he was captured. I like people that weren't captured, okay? I hate to tell you. Do you agree with that? He's a war hero because he was captured, okay?
Yeah. So basically, he's not a war hero. He was just captured. And beside, Donald Trump said he's a loser. We all counted on him and back in 2008, and he lost for us, so therefore he dumps on John McCain. And suddenly, all the Republicans who'd been biting their tongues for the last month when he was calling Mexicans rapist plus, right? Now they've all come out and denounced him, right? Feigned outrage.
Well,
what's going on?
Well, which can only help him, because
Thank you.
I mean, look, let's be honest. There's a certain segment of the party for whom, if the establishment is taking aim at you, and this would just be the latest issue on which he was drawing some Republican criticism. There were Republicans who came out who were critical of his immigration position. There was mildly, but Reince Priebus called him, spoke for an hour to try to convince him to tone it down just a bit.
That's Reince Priebus's version of the call.
Right. But the fact that he's floating that version out there shows that he's saying that the party itself is distancing itself from Trump. And then there's also a segment of the party, and there's a huge overlap here, for whom if you don't ask forgiveness and you make people angry, that you're doing something right. So you put those two together, and look, at this point, he's going to be there on the debate stage. Mathematically, it's basically impossible for him not to be on the debate stage. So
it's 2 weeks away.
That's right.
Right? August 6th.
He's there.
Yeah. So he, unless they change the rules, right?
That's true.
And the rules are you have to be in the top 10 in the polls. Now, there are a lot of them who are going to be down there and maybe just hit or miss.
I mean,
but he's way up there.
If they changed the rules to get Donald Trump off the stage. Now, there had been the suspicion all along that some of those rules that they were putting in place, for instance, you have to release your financial disclosures ahead of time, were the Donald Trump memorial rule to get him off the stage. If they changed the rules in order to get him off the stage, I mean, that would launch him into the stratosphere, basically.
Right. And the other thing, so you have to be up in the polls, which he is. He's been number 1 or number 2. And you have to file your financial papers. People thought that he would
never do it. They thought he'd never do it.
And he's done it.
That's right.
If he's really worth $10.5 billion, who knows? But that's what he filed, right?
That's right.
It doesn't say they have to be authentic, right? Or verified.
Well, look, as he put it his campaign put it in the release that accompanied the financial disclosures, these forms were not designed for a man of Mr. Trump's massive wealth. That's a word-for-word quote. So and then it went on to say in all caps that he is worth $10 billion, all caps. But of course, they're right. You can't tell from these forms exactly how much someone is worth. There's basically no, more than $1 billion. You're basically dealing in imaginary numbers there. It's not on the page.
So what do they do with him? They just let him flame out?
I think they probably don't have a choice at this point. There's no other way to get him off the stage. And the fact of the matter is, the point is, Donald Trump points to his infrastructure in Iowa and South Carolina and New Hampshire. The fact that he's hired staffers. He doesn't have a grassroots volunteer army at this point. Yeah. And even if he does, it's the states beyond. He himself, he's his own press team. He's his own strategy guy. He's hired people around him. Does he necessarily take their advice? He does not. Who does he turn to for his core strategy? Himself. Right. And you can't run for president that way.
Donald Trump has been playing this game for longer than a lot of these candidates have been in the game, right? Longer than Jeb Bush, longer than Rand Paul, longer than Ted Cruz. Donald Trump has been doing this for 30 years, and he's in it just like this. He'll say something outrageous, he gets everybody talking about him, and then he sort of masterfully doesn't apologize.
Right. I hate to mention the competition, but the New York Times today, making your point, above the fold, front page, above the fold, headline, who advises candidate Trump? A hint, his name is Donald.
Oh, there you go. Well, he's one man banding it.
Yeah.
I mean, it's obvious. And this is something, you'll hear from Trump aides, reporting, you'll hear that they were, emailing amongst themselves. Okay, how do we respond to this? How do we respond to this? The fact of the matter is they can make all the suggestions in the world they want. There's not a strategist worth his salt who wouldn't have said to come out and qualify your remarks in some way, to modify them, to offer a qualified apology. Donald Trump doesn't do apologies.
Mm-hmm. Interesting piece I saw, I believe, in the Post this weekend, or maybe you had written it actually, about the fact that when you look at the Republican primary, we all laugh about the fact there are 15, soon there'll be 16, soon there'll be 17 that we know of, right?
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
As being sort of like too many people. At the same time, this presents an opportunity, doesn't it?
Absolutely.
Because with so many candidates on the ballot, you could win with not a lot of votes.
Well, absolutely. The fact of the matter is, we were looking at it this weekend. Scott Walker was out in New Hampshire. Mm-hmm. And Scott Walker has gone, in the springtime, he was above 20% in New Hampshire. He was neck and neck or ahead of Jeb Bush. He has now plummeted in the most recent couple of polls, even down to the single digits, 8%. And yet, he's top tier. He's second or third place in New Hampshire.
Yeah.
This is, you have a lot of margin for error. And beyond that, beyond the fact that the crowded field means that you can hold on to a share of the lead with such a limited amount of followers, the super PAC money means that these guys, we're calling them the zombie candidates, they don't know they're dead. They can stay in the, keep walking, even though they're dead candidates walking for a very, very long time. Santorum, last time around, the reason that he had to get out of the
Foster
race,
Freeze.
money.
Oh,
well,
right.
but Foster Freeze, it wasn't unlimited. He had Foster Freeze, but he had to.
That's the reason he stayed in as long as he did.
There's a reason he stayed as long as he did. That was the hint. That was the leading edge of it. If he'd been running in this era now, he could have kept going indefinitely. Huckabee back in 2008. The resources, he couldn't get his infrastructure funded, and so that's this time around. You got so many guys going into the 8 digits at this point that, all bets are off.
So the 10 who make the stage on August 6th, after August 6th, will those who did not make the stage still be viable candidates?
I think so, at least for a limited amount of time. People are treating it as this kind of drop-dead date where if you're not on that stage, goodbye to the race. The fact of the matter is, for at least the first debate, people will be able to, stoke resentment for, they're trying to silence me, they're trying to keep me off the stage. And someone on that stage is probably going to do themselves some damage. It's really hard to get a rocket boost out of a debate performance, but it's pretty easy to kind of inflict a fatal wound on yourself at a debate. And so someone may disqualify. And so the lineup at the next few debates may be slightly different. And so, we don't know. But I don't think it's necessary, at least for the guys who just missed the cut, there's the possibility that they may find themselves, bumped up to the majors at some point.
All right. And, all the action was not on the Republican side. Again, big dinner Friday night in Iowa, where there are five Democratic candidates all spoke. Martin O'Malley had a good night, apparently, and so did Hillary, so did Bernie Sanders. We'll talk more about that with Rebecca Sinderbrand when we come back. Don't forget, you can join the conversation at 866-55-PRESS.
This is the Bill Press Show.
This is my computer.
This is your computer. Let's go on the internet.
Let's go. Click it.
Yes.
Okay.
I cursor in between the R and the E. Pressing down, I want you to just push the period.
She's gonna love me all over again.
That's it. Jamaica, here you come.
Here we go.
Good job.
Thank you. Thank you. And I did it by myself. Feel smarter.
So, I'm kind of new here, but I've noticed a trend. My human does this funny thing where she goes around and gets all my toys, and then she hides them in that basket by the door. But it's always the same basket, and it's always in the same place. And then she acts so surprised when I find them, but, she's putting them in the same basket. Again. It's like, hello? That's where you put it last time. You were the worst at hide and go seek.
So, same time next week?
Well, of course. Put away a few bucks, feel like $1 million. For free tips to help you save, go to Feed the Pig.
All right. I know this isn't any fun to talk about, but we should. Okay. So who's going to do what?
I'll pack the dead batteries.
Great.
I'll only put what I don't need into a duffel bag.
Perfect. That's totally unhelpful.
No problem.
Meanwhile, I will try to comfort everyone by speaking in a calm voice.
And I'll try to get the generator going without any gas.
Oh, let's not forget the cell phones, which probably won't work.
Right.
And who is going to handle supplies?
I can forget to do a list for us.
Thanks, pal.
Well, I think we couldn't be any less prepared. I'm proud of you guys.
Talk to your kids about who to call, where to meet, what to pack. Visit ready.gov/kids for tips and information.
Hey, thanks for stopping by. You know, I followed your character since the first episode. I'm a big fan. Big fan.
Thank you.
And listen, your storyline, it makes for incredible TV drama. Thing is, your drug use is very adult content. Too adult for the kids. So I'm gonna have to block you.
Oh, man.
Yeah. Well, have a good one.
You're a nice lady.
This is the Bill Press Show.
Here we go now, 26 minutes after the hour, talking politics of the day with Rebecca Sinderbrand. So what is going on, Rebecca, with Bernie Sanders? 11,000 people. I talked to his wife last week, because I was thinking of going to Iowa, and I checked in. And she said, we got this Iowa Friday, and then Saturday Phoenix. And she said, we got this problem in Phoenix. We got this hall. It holds 5,000 people. It's Arizona.
Right. Well, of course, Netroots Nation, of course, it was in Phoenix this
But then
year,
she said over 5,000 had already signed up, so they were scrambling,
That's
looking
right.
for a big hall. They found the convention hall.
You know, this has been an interesting problem. For the biggest problem facing the Sanders campaign over the past couple of weeks, and we wrote about this, was the venue problem, finding venues big enough. But it also highlights a deeper problem for him, which is the infrastructure problem. You know, he points proudly to the fact we don't have a finance director. He writes his own fundraising emails. He does all of these things himself. But the fact is, in order to kind of keep the gears of a campaign running, you got to have people who are experts at this sort of thing.
But they are getting email, web information, contact information for every single person who shows up.
Then you got to be able to
those.
do something with
That's
it.
right. Yeah.
Right. That's the point. It's like, are you going to be able to direct those people to volunteer in the most effective way? Are you going to be able to turn into donations and turn into votes and get them to the polls?
He and Martin O'Malley both went from Iowa to Phoenix for the Netroots Nation, where they were both booed. They're both very well received, but also, I wouldn't say booed, they were protesters.
That's right.
What and why?
So
30 seconds.
That's right. So both of them have kind of hit a wall with the Black Lives Matter movement, where they've said all lives matter, and the Black Lives Matter has a problem with the vernacular of it. But it also highlights a challenge for Bernie Sanders, something that's been noted before, which is that his support has been overwhelmingly white. And after you get past New Hampshire, after you get past Iowa, you're going to have to get black voters on board.
Right. Yeah. And maybe, understandable from a guy who's represented Vermont all of his life, right?
That's right.
Has not had a large African American population, but it is an issue he's going to have to deal with, and I think we're going to see him addressing those issues, but not yet so far. Hey, Rebecca, it's always great to catch up with you. Thanks for coming in.
This is the Bill Press Show.
WashingtonPost.com.
Tune into Free Speech TV for Democracy Now!, a national, independent, award-winning news program bringing you people and perspectives rarely seen on corporate media.
Grunt work. Love it, hate it, useful, not useful.
Necessary.
Our social entrepreneurs are people who have been on the front lines of social change. I've learned so much from talking with them. This is Cafe Impact, and I'm Jonathan Lewis.
I will say that I think is a challenge for anyone, especially the new workforce as they come in, is the ability to accept grunt work with grace.
The most boring, awful details are the most important elements of doing this work. From the way you save names in your Rolodex to the way you bank and you deposit checks. The truth is, this work isn't glamorous, it's rewarding. You don't go into this for the glamour, you go into it for the impact. And so it takes that determination to do the scut work to actually get anywhere.
It can be really challenging in a first job for someone who's coming out of finishing school to have the enthusiasm that they do to make the type of social impact that they've dreamed of. And now they're here in this first job, and all of a sudden they're shouldered with all this grunt work. And they don't understand, and they don't get it, and they're resentful.
Talk more about the power of answering phones.
Sure, I did that myself, took out the trash, cleaned offices when I had to, and it's all good. There's power in being a good team player and in being somebody who sometimes has to support other people's leadership before you get to have your own moment in the sun.
Is it hard to wait?
It is absolutely hard to wait, especially if you're an alpha female like I am.
I think grunt work can help a new employee build trust internally and teach them the nuances of how an organization is run so that they can have a real good sense of what HR is doing, what finance is doing, what all the other departments are, and that actually makes them a better employee in the long run.
So in my role on a daily basis, I literally can be looking at a new venture in software. We could be looking at a microfinance deal. I could be making coffee, taking out the trash, and riding a tractor on any given day.
Have you found people who thought it was demeaning that they were given this job, work in the front office and make the coffee when they graduated with all A's from this great university? And,
people like that just don't last very long in our world. If your approach to life is that, you're so smart and you're such a fabulous entrepreneur that you can't understand why people aren't giving you opportunities, it's really hard to advance.
Tune in to Gay USA with hosts Ann Northrup and Andy Hum for in-depth coverage of lesbian, gay, bisexual, and transgender news. Watch Gay USA every week, only on Free Speech TV.
Frack!
What the frack?
What the frack?
What the frack?
President Obama, are you fracking kidding me?
Reopen the EPA studies. In Texas, Wyoming, and Pennsylvania.
Fracking pollutes our oceans.
Fracking poisons our water.
Fracking makes climate change worse.
Fracking relies on toxic chemicals that cause cancer.
Ban fracking now. Ban fracking now. Go on. Ban it. Ban now. Please.
The most valuable morning radio show, according to The Nation magazine. This is The Bill Press Show.
Hey, here we go at 33 minutes after the hour. On a Monday, July 20, it's The Bill Press Show, coming to you live coast to coast on your local progressive talk radio station and on Free Speech TV. We're coming to you from Washington, D.C. again, our studio on Capitol Hill, where we are brought to you today by the American Federation. Doing a great job every day in the classrooms of America under President Randy Weingarten, the members of the AFT, and you can check out their good work at their website, aft.org. Progressive Talk Radio. Nationwide, we don't have enough Progressive Talk radio stations, and we don't have enough good Progressive Talk radio hosts, so it's always great joy to welcome a new friend to the team. And this morning we've got the honor of doing so, welcoming Wayne Besen, who will now be heard every day, 2 to 5 p.m. on the great WCPT out in Chicago. Hello, Wayne. Good morning and congratulations.
Good morning. Thank you. It's great to be on the show.
Oh, listen, you've been doing great work out there for some time on WCPT. So now, you know, you got a big job here, Wayne. We take everybody to work in the morning. You got to bring them home in the afternoon, huh?
Yeah, and I'm looking forward to 2 to 5 p.m. Central Time. And, of course, people can listen on Chicago's ProgressiveTalk.com. And Chicago is just a fascinating city, and we really needed some programs with both local and national. Chicago is a really place, and I think our citizens are politically engaged here. And whether it be every achievement or every problem in America is in a microcosm here on steroids in Chicago. It's bigger than life. Politics is bigger than life here. It's an exciting place to be.
Oh yeah,
have a show.
Totally. I mean, first of all, I love Chicago. A lot of great friends in Chicago. Love coming out there. Always Matt Cummings at WCPT, Charlie Gross, you know, they're always very good to us. You know what, Wayne, we ought to both now, I think the station owes you and me a big party to celebrate this, don't you think?
I'm always up for a big party.
Yes.
Yeah, bring on the confetti. Confetti, you know, I'm ready.
Yeah, right. Okay, maybe even a parade. You know, Michigan Avenue. Yeah. We'll both have to work on these two guys for that. Charlie and Matt, you're gonna hear from us. All right. So, you talk about politics in Illinois. Do you have any ex-governors who are not in prison?
I don't think so. I think, in fact, we call political science a university degree is in prison. You either learn how to be a better drug dealer or politician when you're behind bars. I don't know. That's the excitement of our politics. It's great.
And what is your take on the mayor? How's the mayor doing? He's reelected. After a tough challenge, right? They had the teachers there, but what's the take on Rahm today?
I think Mayor Rahm Emanuel has a difficult job. We've had a huge pension problem here. We've got a neglected budget for so long. It's not an easy job. Mm-hmm. There were nothing but tough choices to make. His problem, but people in Chicago know this. His biggest problem was his personality.
Yeah.
He came in and, like a bull in a china shop, rammed through everything. They call him Ram, and offended a lot of people the first time. Particularly, he closed down more than 50 schools, mostly in African-American districts. There were howls of protest. And he did so without really consulting and discussing this with the teachers union and Karen Lewis and a bunch of others who have been in politics for a long time, and that put a lot of people off. So he had to actually, during his campaign, sit down and put the nice, kinder, gentler sweater on and present himself as a new, nicer, kinder, gentler Rahm Emanuel. And so far, there's been mixed reviews since he's been reelected after a tough runoff, which nobody expected with Chuy Garcia, a Cook County commissioner.
Right.
And but just a couple of days ago, once again, he appointed somebody new to the schools, and Karen Lewis is upset because she wasn't consulted. She said yet again, he wakes me up past my bedtime, because she had just had a brain tumor and was getting medical, and getting over this. So she said, he wakes me up past my bedtime to tell me what he's done, not to discuss whether he should do it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And so I think he's having an internal battle with himself, with his natural inclination to muscle his way through everything, and the more Chicago way where people have to talk in horse trade and really, I mean, try at least to get along a little bit. We're seeing a larger in Springfield with our new Republican governor. We're also seeing a kind of brutal battle there as well. So there are a lot of fireworks in politics here now.
Oh no, Illinois politics is fascinating. It always has been. What's the word? Do you expect Barack and Michelle to move back to Chicago? Sort of hang out at the Obama Library there? Is what we haven't heard anything in Washington here.
I don't know. I would think they would move back here. I would also think that given the money that they're going to bring in from speaking, And I would think that they would find a way to be out of here in January and February. I love Chicago, but it's much nicer this time of year. So,
I think you're right about that, right?
I expect to see the Obamas here, but I don't expect to see them wearing parkas too often. That's all I'm saying.
Got it. Well, anybody with any sense, right?
Yeah.
I wouldn't. He's also from Hawaii. I think I'd find a way to be there in the winter. It'd be perfect to split. If you could do half the time in Chicago and half the time in Hawaii, you've got a really great life.
I hope you work that into your contract with WCPT. That's all I got to say, right? Yeah.
You know, my parents they live in Florida, and I actually went down for a few weeks during the winter to and broadcast from down there. So I did that. But that was only for the weekly show.
Wayne.
So
Wayne, don't give Bill any ideas. You should have seen the look on his face as soon as you said you went to Florida to broadcast for a few days.
I'm just thinking of all the great places in California I could go back to. Yeah.
You know, I lived in D.C. for almost a decade in DuPont Circle, and in the 90s and early 2000s. And while it's not as cold as Chicago, it's also not the Bahamas. So I think we should both, during that parade they throw us on Michigan Avenue, I think we should negotiate like a dual package for a Florida studio. I'm loving that idea.
Oh man, I'm with you. Right.
There you go. Hey, wait, just a quick note, because your producer Dennis has been a point man for us with the station there in Chicago. So you got a great producer on your hands. He's our guy on the ground there in the morning. So I'm glad you got him. Hey,
yeah, Dennis is terrific, and I'm really excited about working with him on a daily basis. We've worked with him before on the weekdays, Saturday show, and he's always been phenomenal. And it was pretty much just as the guy who's right for the job.
You know, one of the videos before President Obama became President Obama was some of the stuff he had done on local channels in Chicago. He would go, or he did at one point, he gave a restaurant review. He sat down and talked about a restaurant he had gone to and how great it was. And how's the food scene in Chicago? Is it as good as it's always been?
My experience is it's phenomenal.
Yeah, Chicago's a great food town.
Yeah, I've lived in D.C. and New York and here, and the food here is as good as any place I've been.
Nice.
It's terrific. My only problem with the food here is they cut the pizza in little squares instead of triangles, and I can't figure out how much I'm eating.
That's the worst, right?
So I end up eating twice as much.
Yeah, exactly. I hate that. The square cut pizza.
I know. I shouldn't say that because my show's starting in Chicago today. They'll probably hate me now. But please, triangle. Somebody cut the triangle. I think they actually, I've been sent secretly by the East Coast to try to use this platform to persuade them to cut their pizza.
I blame Blagojevich for that.
That's got to be a Blagojevich thing.
I'd never heard of that. I never heard of that.
Talking about prison, I think that wailing you heard all the way in D.C. was when they tried to shave off his hairdo in prison and tried to give him the crew cut, and he just, no!
By the way, I will say I love our people in Chicago. I love the food in Chicago. Chicago pizza is not really pizza, guys. It's delicious. It's delicious. It's delicious.
You're starting
but it's not pizza.
Here. You're starting a war.
Okay.
Peter Ogburn is speaking for himself now.
Okay, wait a minute. Okay, they may cut the pizza a little funny, but Chicago pizza is real pizza, and it's incredible, and it's delicious. I know on the East Coast, I think it's lasagna of sorts.
Yeah.
It's amazing. I love New York pizza and Chicago pizza. It depends what mood I'm in. If I want something a little heavier, heartier in the Chicago pizzas, that's for me.
All right, now, Wayne, what's up for the first show today? What do you got planned? Give us a little preview here.
Oh, well, we're going to be talking a little bit about this whole Donald Trump situation.
Donald Trump, of course, right? Okay.
Donald Trump is we're talking a little bit about that. And, I think he's fascinating because this is really the distillation and the logical conclusion for where the GOP has gone. And while I think his comments on McCain will hurt him in certain quarters, I think in others it's just going to make him even more of the renegade that they want. I mean, this really is a logical conclusion of Republican politics. It had to end up here when you create a bozo. Why wouldn't the lead clown come to the forefront of the bozo bus? of candidates. And I love how they're portraying him as the one clown and the others are serious candidates. No.
Oh, yeah, right. Yeah, exactly.
He's just got the biggest. He's just got the biggest red nose. But they're all of the same cloth. I mean, you have all these candidates, and they all say exactly the same thing in a different way, competing for the most outrageous soundbite. And it's like a parade of Sarah Palin.
Oh. Yeah, it is. And you know what? That's why that first debate is going to be so much fun, I'll tell you. Well, Wayne, congratulations again. So we're so excited for you and for all of our good friends in Chicago. Look forward to seeing you out there pretty soon again. It's Wayne Besen. This afternoon, you'll hear him on WCPT. You can follow him online as well at WCPT.com. Wayne, break a leg. Have a great time.
Hey. Thank you. Appreciate you having me on today. Love your show.
All right. Thanks so much, Wayne Besen. He's going to do a great job out there in Chicago, and probably soon you'll be hearing him all over the country.
This is the Bill Press Show.
Tune into Free Speech TV for Democracy Now!, a national, independent, award-winning news program bringing you people and perspectives rarely seen on corporate media.
I'm the retired bishop with the Episcopal Church as the bishop for all chaplains in federal service. I read that there was a group of people that represented a sense of injustice that I had. We'd lost Zuccotti. I mean, there was a kind of a hope that maybe Trinity Church be gracious and give. We picked this day where we would gather and demonstrate that Trinity was closing its ears to what was happening. We marched around the block, and I realized that, my goodness, they're carrying a ladder. And I thought, well, this is the moment. You could feel a spiritual presence. You could feel a certain something. And then the cops came in. It got brutal.
Yeah, I'm with you right here. Robin, I'm here.
The church needed, in this moment in history, to stand alongside of these protesters. The truth of Christ is found in the pews, is found in the institutional church, but it is also found in the streets. It's found in the honesty and the integrity, the insistence of people that you find in Occupy Wall Street.
Tune in to Gay USA with hosts Ann Northrup and Andy Hum for in-depth coverage of lesbian, gay, bisexual, and transgender news. Watch Gay USA every week, only on Free Speech TV.
You wouldn't let money just blow out of your house. So when your AC or heater is on, make sure the doors, windows, and fireplace flue are shut tight. If you're headed out, turn down the AC or lower the heat by 10 degrees. And always keep your water heater set at 120. A little bit of common sense goes a long way. Get more great tips at energysaver.gov.
This is Governor Jerry Brown in California, and I want to wish Bill Press congratulations on your 10th anniversary of a great radio show, letting Americans know what's really going on. Thanks.
How about that?
There he is.
That's my buddy Jerry Brown, doing a good job as the governor of California and chiming in on our continuing 10th anniversary celebration. And good to see all of you today and talk to all of you today. And we've talked a lot about Donald Trump today. One thing we haven't had much of a chance to deal with, it's just really, I find, very disturbing. And that is the New York Times over the weekend. They got a hold of the deposition that Bill Cosby gave 10 years ago in a case, a lawsuit against him by a young woman who alleged that he had given her drugs and lured her into having sex with him by drugging her first. And that case was settled. Part of the settlement was that neither side would talk about it. Mm-hmm. Pardon me. And so there have been these rumors for decades that Bill Cosby was a philanderer, but more than that, he was luring young women in and drugging them in order to have sex with them. He always denied it. He accused them of being gold diggers and all that kind of stuff, and he got away with it for so long. But this deposition, while both parties agreed not to talk about the case, the way the deposition was filed, it was not privileged. And so the New York Times just went digging in 10 years back, and they found this deposition, which it's sort of like if there were ever any doubt about what Bill Cosby was up to, there is no doubt any longer. Because in this deposition, Bill Cosby admits everything. He admits that he got Quaaludes for the purpose of drugging these women 7 different times from different doctors. He pretended he had some little back pain or something, mm-hmm. But he said, wink, wink. The doctors knew he wasn't that he didn't have any back problem. He wasn't using it for that. He admits that, we're talking, I don't know how many, but many, many, many women. Young women. He would see them. They'd be attracted. He would strike up a conversation. Somehow he would get to strike up a conversation. He would lure them in with offers of helping them with their careers and all this kind of stuff. He was the fatherly figure. One woman, he found out her father had cancer, and so he took a great interest in her and helping her how to deal with her father's cancer and the whole things.
Whoa!
And they said, "Did you ask her those questions because you wanted to have sexual contact with her?" Cosby says, "Yes." He admits all of that, and he admits also that he was paying a lot of these women silent money, but basic money for them not to talk through his agent, so his wife wouldn't find out about it. Disgusting behavior. Since this came out, we haven't heard a word from Bill Cosby, but the president said last week he didn't see how he could take his Medal of Freedom away from him. I don't know why not.
This is a really...
Take it away. And I'm so sorry, just to finish that. And the president also said, when you give drugs to a man or a woman for the purpose of having sex with them and have sex with them, that's rape.
This
is rape, and he ought to be charged with it.
This whole Cosby story, and you really should read this whole thing in the New York Times, it is a rare look inside the head of a predator.
Yes.
Of a rapist.
Yes. Yeah.
He very clearly talks about his process.
Yeah. How he...
And using his power, because as most people will tell you, rape is a lot less about sex and a lot more about power. Cosby would use that power to sort of corner these women into a position and then use the drugs to finish the job. It's terrifying. It's terrifying just to hear him spell it out for us.
And the fact that he got away with it so long. But now this deposition has come out, and I think some of these cases, the clock has not run out on some of these cases, and whatever, I think his days of being able to escape the full brunt of the law are over now. And with that, we'll wrap things up with a bow and a parting shot when we come back.
This is the Bill Press Show.
It is possible to read the history of this country as one long struggle to extend the liberties established in our Constitution to everyone in America. In other words, who, according to our laws and culture, gets to be considered a person? The law creates legal personhood, and movements create law and change culture. So, how have the courts passed laws to shape our culture? That history goes way back before Citizens United. 1819, Dartmouth College versus Woodward, Supreme Court case, turned a corporate charter from a government-granted charter to a contract. This ruling gave corporations standing within the Constitution. 1886, Santa Clara County versus Southern Pacific Railroad. Though the court did not rule on corporate personhood, the decision was subsequently cited as a precedent to hold that a private corporation is entitled to the same 14th Amendment rights of due process and equal protection as human beings. This makes it impossible for us to make laws that treat local businesses any differently than giant multinational corporations, even if their business practices are deemed to be harmful to workers, the environment and communities, or if they have a history of violating the law. Hale versus Henkel, 1906. The court granted corporations the Fourth Amendment search and seizure protection. Dodge versus Ford Motor Company, 1919. The Michigan Supreme Court says the business corporation is organized and carried on primarily for the profit of the stockholders. Stockholder primacy is established. The purpose of the corporation, according to the court, is no longer to serve the public good, as it had been. It is now to maximize profit for shareholders above all else. Pennsylvania Coal Company versus Mahon, 1922. Corporations get the Fifth Amendment takings clause, meaning if you pass a regulation that impacts a corporation's ability to make a profit, that is deemed a taking, and they can sue for the right to future profits lost. This creates a chilling effect, and local and state governments become much more hesitant to pass laws in the public interest for fear that corporations can claim loss of potential profits that cities and states will be on the hook to pay. Buckley versus Vallejo, 1976. The Supreme Court rules that spending money to influence elections is protected under the First Amendment, in effect saying that money is speech. Citizens United versus Federal Election Commission, 2010.
Today, the Supreme Court of Chief Justice John Roberts declared that because of the alchemy of its 19th century predecessors in deciding that corporations had all the rights of people, any restrictions on how these corporate beings spend their money on political advertising are unconstitutional.
The court's ruling threatens to undermine the integrity of elected institutions across the nation. It's a rejection of the common sense of the American people.
The Parting Shot with Bill Press. This is the Bill Press Show.
Well, you might say what goes around comes around. In 2004, it was okay for Republicans to attack war hero John Kerry, but suddenly in 2015, it's not okay for another Republican, Donald Trump, to attack war hero John McCain. No, I'm sorry, it doesn't work that way. To murder yet another aphorism, what's good for the goose is good for the gander. Don't get me wrong. I think Donald Trump's comments about John McCain are disgusting. I like John McCain. I think he's the real thing, a genuine war hero who deserves the respect and gratitude of every American, no matter what you think about his politics. But Republicans can't have it both ways. They can't practice one kind of politics and then whine and moan when somebody plays the same kind of politics against them. Two lessons to be learned here. First, the Republican Party should have done what I suggested over a month ago, disown Donald Trump and throw him out of the party. Two, Republicans should stick to the issues and stop playing the politics of personal destruction like they did against John Kerry, because eventually it'll turn around and bite you in the ass. For Republicans, it just did. That's my parting shot for today, folks. Have a great Monday. Come back and see us again tomorrow.
Bill Press
We'll be looking
Show.
for you.